Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. For those of you who don't know, I am Rich and I run and operate the Hard Compound. We're a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, two wheels, four wheels, open wheels, things with roofs, on-road, off-road, and everything in between. And we try and cover it as best we can on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. So just search for the Hard Compound on any of those three platforms, and also on YouTube. Give us a follow, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so you don't miss out on the good motorsport stuff that we try and bring you. These are in the forms of race reviews, race previews, any breaking news, any like new liveries, good news, bad news sometimes, unfortunately, throwbacks, birthdays, and all that kind of good stuff. And we do that in the form of 3 posts a day, generally morning, early afternoon, and evening. So do tune in, do come and join us for all the motorsport fun. In case you hadn't noticed, we also do live video interviews, even just like this one. These are streamed live on our Facebook, our Twitter, and our YouTube channels. We've had many fantastic guests. Excuse me, it's a warm day. Many fantastic guests from across the motorsport spectrum, drivers past and present, and members of the media and the journalistic world. Just a fortnight ago, we celebrated our 100th live video interview with the brilliant Mr. David Tremaine. Absolutely incredible to speak with him. Perfect guest for our 100th chat. Before that, we've had guys from the worlds of Formula One, IndyCar, sports cars, the likes of Mr. Mario Andretti, Mr. Jackie Ickx, Mr. John Watson. We've spoken with Mike Wilds, with Martin Donnelly, Karen Chanhot, Roberto Guerrero, Mika Salo, Mark Sura, Emanuele Pirro, Carl Wendlinger, with Mr. Nico Prost, with Freddie Hunt, Alex Palou, Scott Pruitt, Brian Herter, Catherine Legg, Alan Jr., Lynn St. James, Derek Warwick, Stephanie Hansen, Mark Blundell, Eddie Cheever, etc., etc. But if you are tuning in tonight, you might like your touring cars. We've had a few of those as well. The likes of legends such as Mr. Jason Plato, Steve Soper, Ivan Muller, Anthony Reid, Gabriele Tarquini, John Cleland, Fabrizio Giovanardi, Tom Coronel, Rickard Rydell, Jerry Marnie, Andy Prio, Frank Sitton, etc., etc. So lots and lots of great guests. So do go and check those out. They're saved in the video section on our Facebook and in the live section on our YouTube. But don't go and do it just yet, because we have another fantastic guest to kick off our second 100 interviews. He's a current British Touring Car Championship driver. He's also raced in the British and European GT Series, the Clio Cup, and much more besides. And he's a lovely chap, and we like him a lot. So without any further ado, please join me in extending a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Aaron Taylor-Smith.
Good evening. How's it
Oh,
going?
there he is. Fantastic. We've got the sound. We've got the sound and the video sorted.
Before we all connected, I had one of those brain fart moments where I was like, I can't figure out tech for the life of me. And I was like, I'm on my wife's laptop now, just trying to get this to work. So I appreciate your patience, Rich, in getting it sorted. You have the lovely backdrop of my kitchen to endure for all of this. But yeah, I was like a minute away from having to call her down from bed to be like, hey, can you come and sort this? Because I have no idea what I'm
doing. that's dangerous ground.
It's really bad. Like, I feel like she's up there with Oakley, who's there only like 11 weeks old. So I feel if I pulled her out of bed to come down and help set this up, it would be like my life would not be worth living.
Yeah, we wouldn't see you for the rest of the season.
No, rightly so. Like, figure out my own stuff. It's pretty simple. Just fix it.
Go with it. But no, it's all good. We got it sorted. So folks, we're a couple of minutes late, but thank you for sticking with us. And the kitchen's clean, so that's good.
Yeah, that's all right. That's
the main thing.
I feel like I put out a bit of an effort to be like, I should put away all these plates and just make sure I look like I'm not a homeless man that's just rambled into this house. So I put on now. We will get interrupted by my dog Archie barking at some point. Like, that's inevitable. The cat will probably appear. It's going to be like chaos, and I'd expect nothing less. So I apologize in advance for people thinking that I'm under siege when someone starts barking so loud.
No, we do like guests now and again. Yeah. I think Ollie Jackson's cat. I think he walked across the
screen. Yeah. I love that.
We spoke with, I think it was Jacqueline Drake. She's a NASCAR reporter, and her dog there was like a head
Just appeared. Yeah. No,
I think John Watson. I think when we were talking to John Watson, I think my own daughter came in from school and just sort of.
Just appeared to see what's going on. Yeah,
So,
I get it. I get it.
It's the fun of live streaming. See, you don't get this. You don't get this on these pre-recorded podcasts.
No. So it's like I'm really conscious not to swear in any capacity, and to being Irish by nature, I feel like every second word is just a little bit like fruitful and colorful. So I'm going to be really good. I'm going to nail this for however long it is. I'm going to be on point.
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, I think we're late enough in the day, and we've had Jerry Marnie on and Frank Sittner, so
I can't do any worse. No, it's fine. I'm not that bad. I just feel
you'll be going some.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like just to be expressionate, I accidentally throw it in the odd curse word. So now that I've mentioned it, I'm going to be like super conscious of it and almost like just go mute. just
one word.
Just yes and no answers from this point onwards. It'll be so much easier.
Right, we're going to fly through this. No, right. We should. I mean, we've got plenty of people in already. Thank you, everyone who's already tuning in. Just want to say hello to some folks in the comment section already. Andy Hoppers, Hopley, Mark O'Neill, Thomas Parker. Who have we got? Aaron Ewing, Defan Evans. You think Defan? Mark O'Neill. Dan Welch has been tagged. Yeah, come on, Dan, come and have a chat. Colin Gregory and many others. So thank you all for tuning in. Any questions, any comments, put them in there. We'll see them in real time and we'll try and work them in. Before we get into anything, firstly, congratulations. Congratulations on the birth of Oakley. Lovely news.
It's the best. Like, I feel like those of you who've probably been around the racing, well, everyone that's watching this has been around the racing in some capacity. Laura, my wife, plays a really important role of it. I would say I let down the racing by being by making mistakes in the car all the time, where she does all the important stuff and makes sure the races stay on track. So the first 2 race weekends were quite hard because at Donington, she was due on the Friday of the race weekend. She started having
a bit of a dash, didn't you?
It was like, I played it all super cool and super chill, but at home she started having contractions on like Saturday during the night, effectively. So labour started. I went on for 72 hours. I got home on Sunday night and then left for the hospital within an hour. And then, like, to be fair, what I would say is that the entire learning from this process is that the female body is not capable of birth. It is an absolutely brutal experience, and I would strongly recommend not doing it.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Like, the new level of respect, and like, without being too soppy, the new level of respect and the new level of pride that I have for her for bringing our little one into this world is true to roof. So yes. But
there's that thing, isn't it? What hurts more, giving birth or a guy being kicked in the?
Yeah, no, listen.
There's no comparison.
No, like, I feel like I was as useless as a chocolate teapot. Like, I literally stood there being like, "Do you want water?" Like, I don't know what to do. I have no idea. And like, I joke, right? Because before Oakley was born, I'd never even held a baby. Like, I was like, we knew we wanted children because, well, this was IVF for 3 years to get to this point. So it wasn't like we weren't sure, but I'd still never held a baby. But yeah, it's probably, I would say, like, you go into the first race weekend, and we're our first race weekend of any year, and you've nerves and anxiety towards it. Then you throw in, well, it's a new team, new car, and there's a baby due on the Friday. It was a pretty emotionally charged weekend. So yeah, for it to have gone well, and like for Oakley to be here. So then they missed obviously the second race weekend just because Oakley was like so young. But then she's been at the last 3. So at 11 weeks old, she's already been at 3 British Touring Car races, which I think is a pretty solid record, to be fair.
She's been to more rounds this year than I have.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Like, and I feel like she's more of a following than I already do. I feel like I'm just slipping down the totem pole. Like, when Archie came on the scene, our dog, he jumped up, and now I feel Oakley has just taken over. Like, people ask, like, whenever they're like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? How's Oakley?" Like, I'm not like, "I'm fine," but you haven't really asked about me, so.
I should hold my hands up. I think I did the same thing at Snetterton when I saw you briefly. I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Oh, yeah."
No, I appreciate
it.
Like, it is always, do you know something? sometimes I forget, like, whenever we're over racing, like, I feel like it's just, I'm living in my own bubble, that I'm like, I forget that other people have like an invested interest into seeing A, how I'm getting on, and B, that like how little Oakley's doing it all. So I actually really appreciate when people, I know this sounds odd, talk to me about anything other than racing. It's a really peculiar way to think about it, but it's the truth.
It's something nice
Yeah,
outside the right.
yeah. Like, it's not fleeting. It's the rest of our life, and it's something that, yeah, I'm really proud of. I love our little one, and like, I joked in one of the videos we did. I think I did something for Carster on it.
Yeah.
Or it was like someone told me that, like, when they hand you your baby, that you'll love it like nothing else. And I literally, like, in that moment, I was like, there is literally nothing I would do that I wouldn't do for this baby. Like, I will murder someone right now, this second, and like, I'm fine with that. Like, I'll suffer the consequences if it protects her. Like, it's funny the shift that occurs instantly, so to speak.
It's almost like a chemical thing,
isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No, it's really good.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, I'm glad all has gone well despite the rush post.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a few mentions of Mondello Park. We're gonna get to.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get to Mondello, folks. Don't worry about that. Kev Whitewood from British Touring Car Chat. Evening, Kev. He said, "Is there something in the Toka water?" Well, there must be. You know, there's you, Ash Sutton, Jack Butel.
A lot of young ones. Like, I was joking before we connected to this. Like, I feel like we've been really fortunate this year. This isn't meant to be a name drop, but Champion RV have been really nice and sorted out motorhomes for us. But I feel like whenever you're staying at the track, it's like a mini holiday camp, because there are so many little ones running around, from like the butcher's kids, obviously Sonny Sutton, and it's really nice. Like, I feel like it's a real sense of community that you're like, I really hope this baby doesn't wake you up tonight. I'm really sorry if it does. And like, I joke, right? So I think it was the first race we went to at Snet. We were parked up, and I saw Jake Hill, was it Jake that pulled in beside us? I can't remember. Lauren will remember. Someone pulled in beside us, and obviously they were like, "Oh, there's a 2-week-old baby in there. I am not parking here," and then drove like motorhome away. I was like, solid move. That's what I would have thought if I wasn't in this position. If I could go with you, I probably would.
It was like, "Oi!" Oh no, actually, no.
Yeah, good call. No, it's nice. Like, there's so many little ones knocking around, and it's kind of cool to think that over the next few years, they'll all become really good friends. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, don't get me wrong, like, everyone is competitive as anyone that's on the grid. Like, everyone will fight tooth and nail for everything. But you have this mutual level of respect for all the other drivers. And it's really nice then to be like, to envision the little ones like running around on like Saturday nights after qualifying and stuff. It would be really cool.
I have to do one of those like campsite lives with the kids terrorizing everyone.
Yeah. That'll definitely happen. Like, I've no doubt about it.
Get involved with that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, fantastic. Just before we get onto the actual motorsports stuff, very quickly, t-shirts out tomorrow. They are good. I'm going to be having one of those. Don't worry about
that. No,
they're cool.
I really appreciate. Like, I feel like sometimes it's nice to do something that isn't like just inundated with like logos and whatnot. So like, we kind of do something that I would wear all the time. And you know, like, I know this sounds like a bit prima donna, but there's something so nice about seeing people wearing them throughout the paddock. Like, I always forget that other people care about how I get on. So it's really nice when like people actually order them, because it does make a significant difference to our season. And the support means more than most people would realize. Like, I could sit here and be like, pretend that I don't care, but I really take note of it. And like, I always make extra time for people that have made the effort, because anyone's hard-earned money is pain to spend, and I'm a miser at the best of times. So it is always like enormously appreciated when people just show their support.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. They are out midday tomorrow. Lauren looks after all that. Again, brains of the operation. She did the design. She did everything. So no, I'm really excited because they're really cool this year.
Yeah, they are very cool. Yeah. Buttery soft again.
Yeah, appreciate it. They're cool.
But yes, so yeah, that's tomorrow on Aaron's website. Go and buy some.
Please do. Oakley would be really grateful.
But wait till I've got mine, folks. Don't be sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, good stuff. Okay, right then. I think that's. Oh, hang on. What have we got here? Craig Jones, just remember your mechanics for the t-shirts.
Yeah, I feel like I always get hit up for all the extras, and I feel that would be a very fair thing to do because Craig obviously works on the car, and has been, I would say, like I think actually it tips on to the whole team thing, and like Craig and the entire car crew are just have become my second family this year. Like I see them so frequently that I feel like the t-shirt is is the smallest gesture that I could possibly think of to thank them for all their work. So I'll have to put on my thinking hat to come up with a better solution than just a t-shirt. Yeah.
Keyring or something. That'd be
Yeah. Something cheaper. No, I'm only joking.
the Aaron Taylor Smith fridge magnet.
Yeah, true.
Get on it. Good stuff. Right. Well, wonderful. No, yes, good stuff. Merchandise coming tomorrow. Right, motorsport. We really should get onto some motorsport, shouldn't we? I think that's what
I should start off by saying, like, when you sent over the brief of this evening, I read it and I was like, I have been around these paddocks for way too long. I'm like a bad smell that won't go away at this point. And I was also like, God love your energy. Like, I don't think anyone other than my own dad probably knows half the stuff that you know. So it's greatly appreciated. Your research and due diligence is second to none.
It's the perks of being a nerd.
Yeah.
Mixed with kind of don't make an idiot of yourself. So always have too much information and you can skip stuff rather than
like, listen, I can't remember last week. You know, so like you'll not make a fool of yourself by any stretch of the imagination.
But there's people that think I've got all this memorized. No, folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that might be secret out. But no, so yes, obviously I've done my research, I think. But motorsport, where did it all start for you? Where did the interest come from? Because obviously you've got a brother who has raced as well, but where did it all really start taking off for you?
I guess, like, realistically, like anyone, I kind of grew up watching touring cars. And then one of my older brothers actually raced in touring cars. And I think that whole sibling rivalry is probably what spurred it on. Like, you always want to be the best in your family, whatever that may be. And I felt like growing up, like I did everything from like stupid quads to motocross bikes to anything that could be competitive. And I feel even to this day, my worst personality trait is how competitive I am. And again, my wife and all my friends will tell you that.
I think that's a good thing.
I don't know. Like,
I'm the same. Even a game of crazy golf in London at the weekend. I came second. I was livid.
No, like I'd be the same. I'd smash the place up. I wouldn't. That was a bad threat. I wouldn't do that. I'm not
holding a golf club in that situation.
So
put it down, walk away.
Yeah. Oh, listen. So I feel like I've just always been competitive, and motorsport is like it's such a weird thing. So I had an interest from it from a young age, and as I grew more into it and got more involved, I think I loved the fact that in essence it's a team sport, but no one really sees that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I love the opportunity to compete with like-minded individuals who all want to win. So I think sometimes when people look at the car or look at motorsport, they'll think, oh, that's just the driver that gets all the credit for that. And I always joke, like, I do the least amount of work than anyone in the team. I make the most amount of mistakes. Like, I should be sacked. Like, that's the truth of it. Where all these guys and girls that work on the cars are like superstars. And I think that's what...
I'm just going to check if Adam Weaver's watching.
No, it's the truth. Like, it is the genuine
I don't think he is.
I think that's where it's always stemmed from. I'm always competitive. Motorsport has always sparked an interest. And then ever since I've really gotten ingrained in it, I've loved the kind of the team camaraderie. There's nothing like it. Like, you just want that opportunity to compete. And it's so nice. It's a mad world. But yeah, I've grown up idolizing touring cars. So it's all I ever aspired to get to. So to be in it and to be able to say that we're, winning races and whatnot is something that, I'll be forever proud of.
And I guess like the touring, I guess the time, was it the sort of like super touring?
Yeah, like
that era.
Exactly. Like, it's crazy. Like, that's what everyone remembers. They remember the PlayStation games. Like, they remember all of that. And it's crazy to think that there's younger generations out there that are probably currently watching now that in 10 or 20 years time, hopefully they were still racing against me, that they'll be able to say, oh, I grew up watching Aaron, and it's really cool to line up on the grid alongside him because
Yeah.
I had those moments. You know what I mean? And it's a really cool world to be involved in. To think that, again, sounds very prima donna because who do I think I am in saying this? But it's nice to think that there's younger generations that we're able to inspire, and I love that. Like, and I've always had the mantra of like, well, to be fair, Lauren came up with it, and she was like, whatever actions I do it in a mind that you always want to make Oakley proud. And I think that's really stuck with me. That like all those youngsters that are watching, that they'll be like, oh, he's a really like normal guy, because that's all I feel like I am, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we like about the touring car, the touring cars, and there's a number of other series who you wouldn't think they'd just be like normal guys, but yeah, you're just they're
like
all human beings.
the thing is, like I've always said this, like I feel so privileged to be in the position that I am, because I am living out my childhood dream, and there's not very much that defines the fact that I'm on one side of the fence and everyone else is on the other watching in, because certain opportunities have come my way, and for whatever reason we've been able to maximize them, but I'm not saying other people wouldn't have been able to. So I think I feel so lucky to be doing what I'm doing, because if I wasn't, I would be following the championship up and down the country like everyone else that's probably watching this. So it's really cool to think that I'm one of the, well, there's the 29 drivers that are on the grid that are competing with the best of the best.
Fantastic. It's very cool. You're sort of like a fan who's gone racing, which is great.
Yeah, like I feel that. Like I feel like it's like sometimes like even if you look back, I'm probably jumping and ruining your whole flow to this.
No.
Like even when you look at, say, Alton Park, didn't go our way, and yeah, you could be down in the dumps about it, but you can also say that there was 40,000 people there spectating that on that day that would have given their right arm for one lap in the car, let alone the opportunity to race against the best of the best. So I think you can never lose sight of that, and it's very easy to let your ego take over, where actually when you remove the ego of it, some days will go your way, some days won't. that is the perils of sport.
Oh, that's a fantastic way to look at it. It's just take a step back, look at the wider picture as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't get me wrong, I have my moments, and I will effing blind inside the helmet by myself. But at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. This is a sport. Sport is difficult. Like, that is what it's all about.
Yeah, and you usually lose more than you win.
100%.
Certainly in some sports. So
yeah,
try and enjoy the ride, I guess. And just on that sort of subject of being a fan, looking in, that kind of thing. Question from where are we? We got like Diffan Evans. He says, when you were obviously watching it in the touring era when you were young, great question. Did you? Well, actually, just added a second question. One, did you ever think you'd end up racing against Jason Plato and Matt Neal? And also, did you ever think you'd be a teammate to Jason and Colin Turkington?
Yeah, like I think it's a funny one. Like, I have huge amount of admiration for what Jason has achieved. Like, I feel like he was the soulmate of the British touring cars, and I feel, don't get me wrong, we've had run-ins, but at the same time, that is racing. Like, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's fine. Personalities can be different. Maybe I'm different to Jason. I'm sure I'm not his cup of tea. Like, that's totally chill by me. But I grew up like admiring him. So as soon as you got to the grid and I had the opportunity to beat him, that's all I ever wanted to do. And I think it sparked a hunger in me, and I really enjoyed it. And being teammates with both he and Colin in, I don't know what year that was, one of the years, it was such a learning curve. Like, I felt like two different approaches, someone who's really clinical and methodical, and then someone who's very fast, but also a big risk taker. Like, two different personalities. You can merge bits of each and learn bits from both. Because I'm always one that I love learning, and I love, I felt like would I have thought growing up that you'd have the chance to be teammates with them? Probably not. Like, that's the truth of it. Like, even when I was teammates with Alan, that was great. Like, learned loads from him. Really good character. Someone who I'll always have a lot of time for. But there are other names like Jack Goff who are easily as good as those guys.
Absolutely.
And he just never got the opportunity to showcase that skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're definitely going to come on to Jack a little bit later because we love him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's great.
No, fantastic. That's very cool. I mean, but before obviously all this happened, you went karting, obviously, over there in Ireland, and I mean, obviously, I guess you just went along and gave it a go. And how long did it take for you to think, I'll have some of this?
Like it's funny, like it's I don't know, like I think like I'm one that if I pick up a new sport and I have a natural decent level at it, I'm more inclined to stick with it. And as soon as we sat in the go kart, I seem to be really competitive, like from eventually building to winning like the national championships over here and a few other things. Like it was such an enjoyable road, and I think like it sparked something in me that other sports didn't. Like, and I feel like for whatever reason, motorsport it like brings out. I feel like it's a huge pressure cooker, and you can either thrive in it or go back into a shell of yourself. Because at the end of the day, there's only one result sheet and only your name shows on it. So you're always benchmarked against anyone. So from a young age, I loved that. I loved being able to like showcase what I can do. And like, yeah, I think it was an instant love. Like weirdly, I never once throughout however many years I've been doing this, which sounds bonkers because it's probably like 20 odd years now. I've never once thought, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. There have been hard days, even hard seasons, but I've never thought about not continuing.
Yeah, you've always wanted to go back.
Yeah, like it's
which is how it should be, of course.
exactly, like I love it. Like it's one of those things that like our life has been built around it. It is a part of who I am, for good or bad. Like at the same time, like everyone knows us as being involved in motorsport, and yeah, I think it's a really like unique and enjoyable way to have spent so many years of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very cool way to grow up, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy.
Racing.
It's a huge opportunity, and I think that's what. Yeah, sometimes people don't grasp that opportunity as much as they should.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, should I do it? Say yes to life. Say yes.
You will never know unless you put yourself out there. And like that's what I always say to people. Like, if there's an opportunity, take it. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? So I'm kind of like, yeah, just keep going. Say yes to everything, and you just never know where you'll end up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I've ended up talking to guys like you and others. So.
I'm
just a fan. I just,
Yeah, it's nice though. It's really good fun.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. You mentioned, you became like the Irish like karting champion out there at home and everything. I guess once you've done that, your mind started to wander on like towards cars and things like that. There's only like there's only a few sort of series out in Ireland there. We've got like Chaos Cole, one of the youngsters on Ireland. She's out doing the F1000. She's absolutely tearing things up at the moment. But she felt like she had to move to the UK mainland, as it were. Obviously, we spoke with guys from over your side of the water, with like Martin Donnelly, Kenny Atchison, these guys. They said they got to a point where they said, if I'm going to progress, I'm going to have to go east. Was it the same for you?
That is hard. Like I would love to have done something like to a high level of competitive. Not saying that motorsport isn't competitive in Ireland, because it is. Like there are people at Mondello who are unbelievable. But I think the difference is once you kind of come across into the UK, it becomes a real industry where everyday brands get involved in the sport, and I think that's the difference, where the opportunities are much more plentiful. I would say it's a shame, because I would have loved to have been able to just drive home from a race weekend at some point. Like I kind of miss that. Like I think people always forget, oh yeah, he has to travel across. Like he lives on the wrong side of the water for this championship. Why do you do this? This is so impractical. But then again, if we went to Mondello, geez, I'd say I'd need about 3 double-decker buses to get everyone in. Like it would be, if everyone would come out of the woodwork, I feel, for that one. So in some regards, having 1 degree of separation and that water might work in my favor.
It may be, yeah.
But
it just keeps a control on things.
It does, but like a few of my friends like do different championships in Mondello, and I always go down to watch and whatnot, because actually it's like, it's really cool. Like it's a real community over here, where in England, and like to our benefit, it is an industry that I love to be a part of, and I feel like it is a shame it's not the same over here. But unfortunately, you kind of have to follow where the most competitive championships are. And that is, in my opinion, the touring cars.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you go about it, going from, getting into the car racing? Because you didn't, as far as I know, you didn't do much or any car racing at all over there in Ireland.
No.
How did you? I mean, obviously your eyes were always on the BTCC
Yeah.
by the sounds of it. Was it a case of right? Can we get onto that package
Yeah.
somehow?
That was the
And how
long.
did you do it?
That's it. The long-term goal was always to arrive in British touring cars. We didn't know when or how that would take place. So the Clio Cup at the time, which is now replaced probably by the Minis, was the main feeder series for the championship. So we had a few different connections that were able to get us into the championship, from Reynolds Insurance to a few different companies that were able to get involved. And we were really fortunate. It was a great championship for learning the ropes. You know what I mean? Like learning the circuits and being able to kind of extract the most out of front wheel drive cars in general, because it's crazy to think that, like, I was racing those Clios when I was 16, so didn't have a road license. Like, it felt so bizarre. And it's, again, like, the first year or two is hard. Like, we had some big highlights of, you know, running, like, qualifying on the front row in our debut year and everything like that. And it was like, oh, the pace markers are there to show that the evolution can come. And then we narrowly missed out in the championship. But as a result of that, we won what was called the Motorsport Ireland Young Driver of the Year, which came with financial funding from the Irish Sports Council, which then propelled me into touring cars in 2012. And that's when the journey started. And I've kind of just hung on for dear life ever since.
Love that turn phrase. It's brilliant. I've just seen a comment. He says, "Who's bagging the next win in the PMR Astra?" And that's from Mikey Doble. Evening, Mikey. Thanks for tuning in.
I would like to hope I would like to bet me, but you know something, like both Mike and Andrew have been brilliant rookies. I think they've been phenomenally good in their debut season, and
very, very impressive.
Also, like they're so fast. Both of them are very good. So to answer Mikey's question, I'm just going to say me, because confidence is key. But at the same time, I know in order for that to be the case, I have to beat both you and Andrew, which is a task in itself.
Yeah. Does it depend who's on the inside? Just
no. I'm very fair like that. I would never do that.
Of course, I know.
So no, I feel like it's they've not been great, and I feel that leads me nicely onto it. Like, they've been brilliant teammates, and I feel have a bright future in touring cars ahead of them. You know, I think you only have to look at Mikey's qualifying performance at Thruxton. That's phenomenal. Like, it's absolutely superb. And I'm the first person to always say well done, because I know how hard of a graft it is. And I think, like, you know, he has a really long future ahead if he can stick with it. If he can continue down this path, he'll do great. I sound like I'm like this old wise guy, but I'm not. Like, I feel like I've just fluked this. Yeah.
Oh, Dan Mayhew's just said, just make sure Dan Rowbottom isn't behind you. Oh, that's come on, it was a great failure, Dan. Come on.
Like, you know something? I actually feel so bad for Dan, because he got so much grief over it. Don't get me wrong.
Didn't he?
I gave him some grief to begin with, but at the same time, like, everyone makes mistakes. Like, the amount of mistakes that I've made is like off the chart. But there's nothing worse than, don't get me wrong, it was brake failure. Well, brake fail, it's all the same. Like, at the end of the day, you hit the brakes, car didn't stop. And at that moment, yeah, exactly. Like, it wasn't performing the way it should have. And I feel like his heart would have sunk. And I feel so bad, because, he's probably had to deal with people being like, you shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, did kind of wreck the weekend. But listen, that's life. I feel like he was like the first person to apologize. And I'm always just like, that's fine. Like, everyone makes mistakes. Like, life goes on. I'm fine. It's going to be grand.
And you both walked away.
So exactly. If anything, like, it was just, felt bad for the car crew on my side, because they had worked so damn hard, and then it comes back in a ball, and I'm just like, nah, it's going to be a long hour or two. Well, I'm going to sit inside. Oh, shoot. Oh, no, nearly swore. Didn't swear that.
It's all right. It's fine. Just very quickly, just to rewind to the Clios. I mean, when you got in there, did you have any expectations going into the season, or was it a case of let's learn the car? Obviously, because you're not in the middle of a kart, you've got the depth perception and the role of the car and everything. Was it just a learning curve that first year?
It was like there's a lot to take in, even from the circuits. And I even feel to this day, like, when we arrive at circuits this year, they'll have resurfaced different bits, and just responding to that takes so much time. So the first year or two of actually being in cars or the Clios in general feels like you're in a fighter jet not knowing what to do. Like everything's all over the place. Like every changeable condition that comes up, it's a whole new ball game. And you've no like archive of information to revert back to. You've no, oh, when I was last here, you could use that curve in the weapon, not this one. You'd none of that information. So it was hard in that sense, but also like that's probably what I love most about the sport is you're put on this pedestal to be able to compete at the best. And those drivers and those one-make championships, I've no doubt that they're all gone on to be very successful in their own right, doing different things. And a lot of people have made it from Clios to touring cars and paved very successful careers in it. So you are racing against the next generation or iteration of touring car drivers, even though you're trying to learn it yourself. So it's an uphill learning curve, but at the same time, once you start winning races in it, it's so rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I mean, that leads us in nicely because you did the winter series after, was it the first year?
Yeah.
Was it just a continuation of learning the car and just an opportunity to do that?
Yeah, exactly. The opportunity presented itself to do it, and it was more racing, more seat time, and more chances just to refine your skills. And I think that's what makes a huge difference is like actually refinement rather than, because if you think about it, from a racing driver's perspective, when you turn up to actually go racing on the 10 Sundays of the year, that is 5% of the time that you spend working on that time to get to the race. So when actually there's the opportunity to do races like a winter series and those feeder series, it really adds to the seat time. And I'm one of those firm believers that, you know, the 10,000 hour rule where you do 10,000 hours in anything and you'll be a professional at it. So the winter series, it's an opportunity to clock up 5 hours, 6 hours, and you just keep accumulating those hours and you get to the end goal.
Yeah. And you got a couple of wins and you won the series, which is
it's kind of cool.
A confidence booster going into the following year, of course.
Yeah.
Just very quick before we go any further with that, I do need to mention John Balfour in the comments. He has got your old Focus.
No way. Yeah. That's cool.
He's got that. He said, one thing I did say, I said, I would ask you, do you fancy having a blast around in it again? Because he said he'd get to a circuit if he could.
Listen, I would love to. I would say the limiting factor will be my time away from Oakley. Like I actually, if I lived on the right side of the water, I'd do it tomorrow. But it's actually like it's like a 3-day ordeal to come over. But at the same time, I would love to have a chat with him, but and actually figure it out. Do you know what I mean? We'll put a date in the diary and try and make it work because that was the first touring car I won a race in. Like it'd be quite cool even just to see it again.
Yeah.
And I hope he's looked after it. It was a good piece of kit. Motorbase did a great job with that car. So yeah, it'll bring back a lot of fond memories to be reacquainted with it.
Right, good stuff. John, I'll be in touch. We'll sort something out. And he's also racing at Croft soon in it. Any tips?
Any tips? Jim Clark S's are flat from lap 1. Just be flat out, you'll be fine. That would be the number 1 tip. That will give you a good second lap, I think.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Nice one, John. We'll come to Croft a bit later for something a bit less happy. But right, so I mean, you've done that winter series in the Clios. I completely forgot about this. You were alongside Phil Blue and Jeff Smith.
Yeah.
In the team. I mean, there's 2 guys to learn from, isn't it? I mean, that's pretty cool.
That was very cool. And I feel
like know their stuff
massively. And I think Phil is probably one of the most underrated drivers. And they've gone on to do a phenomenal job with, I think it's edge management that they've built up. And it looks like they have taken over a lot of the paddock. So they're doing a great job. But Phil was, and still is, a very good driver. And you know something, like I was probably early in my career when we lined up against him. And it was nice to see someone that was really knocking on the door of getting into touring cars and to be alongside that. So that was a big one. And I feel like I got along really well with Jeff as well. Like Jeff actually did some races out in Italy with us as well, I believe, one of the years. And like we actually ended up becoming quite close friends throughout the whole process. Really nice guy. Again, very successful in his own right, both on track and off track with his business. And obviously now like is still enjoying his racing, just doing it in a championship that's probably a little less stressful than touring cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Jeff was doing it sideways at Thruxton, wasn't he?
Yeah, and
that was crazy. That was brilliant.
captivating to watch. Like I felt like you get out of the car after our race and you go straight in and watch the TV in the truck. To be like, when are those minis back out? I'll have a watch of them. But no, he was phenomenal in them, and he put on a proper good show. I still think he would be very competitive in the right package in touring cars.
Yeah, definitely. No, he's a good guy. And obviously that year, first win at Donington, that must have felt good.
Yeah, it did. Like sometimes it's like a coming of age. Do you know what I mean? Like it's something that you've grown up fantasizing about. Do you know what I mean? Like you've always waited for that, and it was kind of one of those wet to drying races, conditions that I normally go quite well in when you're adapting to a track. It's weird. Like I never think of those times anymore. Like, and only when I think back at them, like they say you get faster with old age. Like you look back at the memories, you're like, oh, it's really good back then. And that is definitely happening now because I'm like, Jesus, I was so good in that car. But no, it was brilliant. Like I feel it was the first win in the car, so to speak. Well, no, because we won the Winter Series. It was the first regular season win. Don't know how you say that. But it was quite cool. It was a coming of age to be like, right, we've actually been able to, stretch our legs, show what we can do. And it was the start of the touring car kind of campaign, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what kind of launched it a bit. And you had another sort of couple of seasons in the UK Championship. Well, I didn't know this. You raced in Italy.
I did.
You raced in the Italian. I'd see every day was school day. I had no idea. How did all that come about? Because it was Jeff, wasn't it? Jeff was out there as well.
With Árón Motorsport, and it was a way of it was very smart. Like it was a way of being able to work on front wheel drive, because obviously the heat and tire degradation is so high out there that you learn so much about technique. So I won races at Imola, Monza, and everything out in that championship. It was really cool. It was really cool to go to those tracks. And maybe the history of the circuits was probably lost to me at that time because I didn't appreciate what it was as much.
Sure.
But at the same time, it was an incredible experience. And I feel one that has really stood to me over the years, because whenever it gets really hot in England is normally when we go our best, because of the little tips and tricks that you've learned out in those type of conditions.
Sure, yeah. And it's weird. I mean, we always sort of speak. We've spoken to a lot of drivers on here and racers, and ones that always feature in the conversation, apart from Brands Hatch, weirdly, is it's always Imola comes up. Yeah. I mean, John Watson, he said, "Oh, take me to Imola every day of my life," and I'll. Although he said the proper layout, which is fair enough. We all know why they changed it. Yeah. But he just said it was a fantastic circuit. He said it was like Brands Hatch, but on steroids. It was incredible.
And to say the grip level varies from wet to dry is an understatement. I've never driven a track that is as slippy in the wet as it is as that circuit for whatever reason.
Really,
but it's a brilliant track to drive. And it was cool to go over and do the Italian Championship because there was something like 30, 40 cars in it. So damn competitive. So then to win on their circuits was really cool. I feel like it's something that I'll forever remember. But no, Imola is one of those tracks that is just, phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just because of, so many of us have got to a certain age now, we all remember what happened in the 90s and stuff. It's just got a bit more kind of a mystique about it, I guess, for some. I'd still love to go there, but yeah, very cool. It's cool you've driven it. Very cool.
No, it's cool. Cool old place. One of the ones that I'll never forget driving at, to be fair.
Fantastic. Just on the last bit on the Clio Cup and your time in the Clio Cup, you came very close to winning the championship. Certain chap, Paul Rivette. That was a great battle that year, wasn't it? And obviously you didn't quite come out on the right side of it, but for us, it was a fantastic.
This is such a blast from the past. I actually can't remember the last time I've spoken about this. It's so cool. I feel like I love it. I actually, weirdly enough, when we were doing our preseason testing at Croft, we were sharing a garage with Paul, and because I still I'd speak to him every time I see him in the paddock. But it was a really great season. From leading it to just narrowly missing out, it was phenomenal. And I really enjoyed getting to race against him because I don't know how many times he's won that championship. He's so damn good. But it was really good fun. And, if anything else, I just loved, what I'm starting to feel again this season is turning up to every race again, feeling like you have a chance. Do you know what I mean? And that's what that season was. It was well, like, how fast will we be, if that makes sense? It wasn't like, oh, I wonder, will we be near the pace? It was like, well, let's see what we can achieve. And it was a great year, and it was a year then that set me up nicely to then go into the touring cars. Because I think like being able to win races in one-make championships really stands to you for when you get to something like the touring cars, because all that experience of maximizing your equipment to better perform those in the similar kit really, really is a testament then, and can pave the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do love a one-make series. It's always
Yeah, they're great, to be fair. Really good fun.
It's all so level in theory. Just quickly, final word on the Clio Cup. Obviously, it's no longer on the touring car package. It was like numbers were dwindling, but I just had a quick look through. I mean, it's a proving ground for obviously for yourself. For Jack Goff, who mentioned earlier on, for Max Coates, Sam Tordoff, Dave Newson came through, Dan Rowbottom, Josh Cook, Ash Sutton. I mean, it was a really good sort of feeder series, wasn't it? I mean, it was a really strong championship.
I think so, and I think it was probably, not to belittle the mini championship, because that is a very competitive championship, but the Clios are probably more comparable to what the touring cars were at that time, if that makes sense. So I felt when drivers were at the top of their game in the Clios and they got into a touring car, they were very competitive. And I'm not saying that that's not happening, because obviously Ronan Pearson's doing very well. But I think you would see more people graduate from the Clios to touring cars than you do from the minis to touring cars. Don't really know what it is. I think the cars are probably just that little bit different. So when people go from a mini to a touring car, it's like, whoa, what is this thing? Where when you went from a Clio to a touring car, it was, yes, it's a lot faster, but in essence, it's the same.
Similar kind of thing. We've had a number of the mini drivers on. We had Joe Tanner on the other week, and we've had like Brad Gravitt on and Max himself as well. And they've all said, "Oh, they're crazy to drive. They're completely."
They do look great, and it's a great championship. Like they look so competitive. To be fair, I don't know how Joe does it, because he's so damn good at doing helmets as well. It's actually
very good.
It's remarkable. Like they did this year's helmet for me, and his level of creativity and perfection is beyond belief. So I guess it's no doubt why he's so good in the car, because it's the same mentality at the end of the day. But still, I don't know how he finds the time, because it looks like half the touring car grids helmets are done by Rennet these days. It's quite good.
And loads of other series as well. Chadwick and loads of others.
And he just, if nothing else, he's just a really nice guy.
He's
I'm kind of well, I want to get my helmet painted anyway, and I really like you, so let's just do that.
But the hours he puts in is on.
It's crazy. Don't know how he finds time to go racing.
Yeah, superb, absolutely superb. Crikey, we got some questions, got some comments flying in. I've just seen one from Mikey Doble again. He says, "Can we get Lauren on? Better conversation."
I feel, don't get me wrong, Lauren would be more interested in it, but Mikey will relate to this. If you
I don't know what that says about us.
I'm as born as anything. If you ever, Mikey will correlate this. If you ever want to hear any gossip or news that's going on with the driver market within the touring cars, Lauren is your go-to source. I feel like in the winter, I'm like, oh, did they say that? That's interesting. I feel like she's a beacon of knowledge. But unfortunately, I was saying to Rich before we jumped on, Oakley had, I don't know why I'm rubbing my eye, because it didn't wake me up. She was a terror last night and woke Lauren up every 90 minutes. So Lauren's already in bed. And to be fair, it's coming up to 9. And Mikey, you know me. I am itching to go to bed any minute. So if I went up and asked her to come down, I would actually be kicked out of the
house. That would be it. That's a good question there from Dave Cox. We'll come to that a little bit later. Yes, obviously we're kicking on a bit. I'm just going to rattle through. I mean, your BTCC debut, you got the opportunity to race at Knock Hill with Triple Eight Racing taking over from certain Tony Gillam. Just wondering how that came about. And obviously your eyes were on the BTCC and you've done well in the Clios.
So that opportunity came about because I'd actually never raced at Knock Hill. So we knew in 2012 we wanted to do a full campaign, and I didn't want the first time we went to Knock Hill to be my first touring car experience in the season, if that makes sense. So when the opportunity came to jump into that Vectra for Knock Hill, it was an opportunity that I felt had to be taken. And again, it is why I think the Irish Sports Council took note of it, because all of a sudden you earmarked yourself out as someone who was serious and wanting to do the championship, as opposed to 10,000 others that were saying, "Oh, I'll get the touring cars." So doing the first race at Knockhill, like I've used the analogy of like a fighter jet. That's what it felt like. I was like, what is this thing? Why am I driving a rallycross circuit and I can't see? Like I was like, this is lethal, but this car is so good. And we managed to score points on our debut, and that was when only the top 10 scored points. So I think
it was, and you came 10th.
I was like, what has happened? Like, what am I doing here? Like, how is this going about? Now we won't talk about race 3. That was a bit of chaos, but that's life. I'll ignore that one. I'll take the good points from it. But yeah, that was. So it's crazy to think like you rolled out your first race and just finished 10th. I was like, well, never been to this track, never driven a touring car. Let's just see what happens. But no, it was some experience, and it ignited the fire to want to do it full time.
I guess from then on it was like, right, that's it. That's
all we had to do. And all the sponsors that were involved with us, everyone's eyes opened up to it. Where before it was like, I think we should do touring cars. But everyone really got on board, and that was a turning point. So that would be my advice to drivers. If there's an opportunity to do a race, it really does make a difference to have been someone who have done it rather than someone who talks about doing it. Because you just come out the front of the pack, so to speak.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
I like that. And obviously, you said that you got some sponsors, backers on board. I guess that helped you getting into Motorbase for that first year.
Like there's no secret about it. Like motorsport is like stupidly expensive. Yeah. Like to think that you could buy a house for what it costs to run a touring car for a year, that it's not possible without a support network. And in the earlier years, it was harder because I had no proven track record, so to speak. So we had smaller partners, and over the years it has grown. Like, without going into a massive list of it at the moment, I'm lucky enough to represent 18 different companies, ranging from like small independent family-run architecture firms right up to a nationwide service provider and Briggs Equipment. And we're about to announce a new partnership with, which is quite cool. So they've been around the touring cars before, a company called Virtual Effects. So they'll be taking over. They'll be on my helmet for the rest of the year, which is really nice. But it's that partnership network that grows and makes everything possible, because it's, as I said, it's bonkers money like to do this championship, but at the same time, the commercial return on it for partners when it's handled well, I think outweighs it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why obviously there's a few drivers who've sort of struggled in the off season with budgets and things like that. It feels like it's been very tough in the last 9 months or so, but it feels like it's, for a lot of drivers anyway, it feels like it's just tipping back the other way. There's more interest. People are getting on board. They're seeing the benefits of it.
That's it. Like, what I would say is, like, one of the things that probably changed a huge amount for us as drivers in a whole was the introduction of like Drive to Survive, like that Netflix documentary, because all of a sudden the sport became an everyday household name or everyday household sport where, if you had gone into your local Starbucks or whatever coffee franchise that you prefer 5 years ago and asked everyone, have you ever heard anything about Verstappen or any of those Formula One drivers? I can guarantee less than 10% of the people would have said yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you go across and ask them, every person will have had some connection to it. Like, oh, I like them, or I don't like them, or my wife loves that guy, he doesn't like this guy, or my sister likes him. And now all of a sudden it's become an everyday sport. And I think that's what you've seen now, the resurgence of companies being able to come back on board with the championship, because there's more of a significant interest from the companies themselves, but also their customer base has that Netflix effect, where it's like, if they invite customers to come along to Lovely Crofts at the end of the month, people will want to go. Where 5 years ago, they'd be like, I've never heard of Croft. Like, what is that? Is that a circuit? Is that a rally? What are you talking about?
What's
and I think then that has enabled us to be able to approach different companies that may not have looked at motorsport in the past. And now it is, it's about like being able to maximize what each one wants. And I think that's the connection. Like, if you if you listen to what people are telling you they want, you generally do a better job. And that's the key to it.
It makes it a bit easier, and it's an easier sell for someone going out there and saying, "I want to go racing."
That's it. Like people now, like I always find a marker of success to me is I am the guy that people want to ring on their way home from work to talk about what happened in the race. It's not like a real formal setting. Like unless people feel part of a racing family with us, there's no point in doing it. And my mantra has always been that everyone needs to enjoy it as much as I am, because without everyone's support, we're not doing it. So I'm so fortunate for everyone that has been a part of my journey in making this happen. So I literally, like, I'd be so silly to name names because I'll leave people out, but everyone knows how important they are in different ways to myself and Lauren and Oakley.
Yeah, and they certainly do now. And obviously, it was through creating that network and everything that got you into motorbase, and well, it certainly helped with it. I mean, you had a pretty strong first season, as first full seasons go. Did you think that you'd get a win in your first season? Did you ever? I mean, obviously you'd thought, oh, that'd be nice, but did you ever really think it was going to happen?
Like sometimes, like I'm one of those people that like don't let themselves like fantasize too much about it. Like what I always say is like trust in the process, and then the results will come. Like success is inevitable if you follow everything. So did I think it was possible? I'm not sure, but I guess, well, obviously it was. And like I always had confidence in what I could do, but like because I do think confidence is key. Like I believe, like when we go to Croft, I believe we have a chance of winning. Like that's how I always feel, and I'll always go out with that mantra and approach that I want to win. So being able to win in your first year is something that I'll take to my grave, to be like I did that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And like I think as the year got on, I felt more and more at home in that car, and then all of a sudden it just clicked. And I feel that's how I'm starting to feel about the Astra. That it started very strong, which it has, and now I'm like, oh, I feel really at home in this car, and that's hopefully when you just ignite and take off.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you got the podium at Silverstone, then that win at Brands in the wet, shocking conditions. I remember it was. I actually watched it last week, thinking, as first wins go. I mean, that you had to work for it. It was a slippy circuit.
Like it's odd. Like when you're, like I know this sounds odd. When you're winning, it's easy. Like because you're just in that flow and in that zone that you don't even notice. It's when like you're getting to the front is the hard part. Once you have all those ingredients in place, racing becomes easy. And I feel like I'm coming out with some serious sayings here, and I feel so bad for this. But like my whole approach is like motorsport is a game of variables, and you remove as many variables as possible, you have a greater chance of success. Right, so in situations like that, when it's raining sideways, you kind of know like what the information we've collected upon setup over the course of the year, what will work, what won't work. And then you can go out and put on a show really, which is quite nice.
It's good. It does. Well, it's been a good feeling. Following year, I mean, you stayed with the team. I think everyone loves the airwaves.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it. I love it. It's fantastic. I mean, was the fact that they had brought that big sponsor on board? I mean, was that a factor in?
What? Like at the end of the day, like they were able to assist in making it to allow us to continue there. And Motorbase, as we've seen this year, are a phenomenal team. Like they have amazing staff, amazing engineers, and it was a privilege to be a part of it. Like I feel like I really enjoyed my time there. And when they went full NGTC in year one, the first maybe half of the season was hard. We were finding our feet with the car because other teams had ran the equipment the year before. Sure. But then once we got our head around it, and I think, I don't know how my memory is serving me this, but I remember the tire test that year was kind of the turning point that we unlocked a load of performance in the car and went from being 10th to 15th car to being a top 3 car. And that was hopefully what we'll have seen last week, where you find something that you've been chasing all year. And then, it sets you up really nicely for the second half of the season.
Yeah. I mean, this is something I just spotted when I was doing the research. I mean, two rounds in particular that year. Snetterton and Silverstone, you were sort of in the top sort of 6 the whole time, with a couple of podiums and everything else. Both very flat surfaces, circuits. Was that a complete coincidence with the focus, or was it just one?
I don't know. Actually, it's a good point. Maybe it was.
I just looked at it and thought,
yeah,
it's really flat. I wonder
it's a good point. I don't know. I know it sounds odd, but the surface itself probably makes more of a contributing factor. So high grip, low grip, Snet, Silverstone. I would have said they were varying degrees. Don't know why we went so well at those two tracks, but for whatever reason, I always seem to go well at Silverstone, and I like to put it down to the fact that I have a very low IQ. So therefore, there's few corners that I can mess up, and therefore I have a greater chance of success. Less variables, more success. So maybe that's why I always go well there.
Yeah, could well be. Could well be. Who knows? It could be a complete coincidence. Who knows? Just something that did happen that year. We've all seen it. It was the accident at Brands.
Yeah.
Don't really like talking about accidents.
I love a good accent. Like, they're my favorite part. Like, they're great crash.
You are definitely a fan that went racing.
Love it. I love it. Gets it. Crashing's proof you're trying hard. Like, that's the main thing. So if anything, it's just a battle scar.
What was it? Was it Mario Andretti said if you feel like you're always in control, you're not going fast enough?
Yeah, exactly.
Something like
Bring it out a little. See what happens. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, no, I've had a few good crashes over my time, which is pretty entertaining. Like, I'm kind of like, that's just like and like the thing is, these cars like are so safe. I know that's probably not what my wife and all run here, but they are like, it's like driving a tank. Like, you hit every, like, I remember at Alton, everyone was like, "You okay?" I was like, "Oh, like, I've tweaked my back getting out of the car to carry to shopping more than so like this is totally fine." But yeah, like, a few good crashes. Brands is a good one. I think I had a good crash at Snet that year as well. So it's good. To be honest, I think you could go to every track on the calendar and I'd be able to say, yeah, I had a good crash at that. Or this is part of it.
Yeah. I've always wondered. I mean, because I thankfully have never been in a car that's been upside down or rolled or sideways or anything like that. But I mean, with that one, there was some. You were coming up. You were out of paddock, coming up to Druids, and was it cars on the outside? Was it? And you just.
So
do you know what happened? Or
I still remember it. Like, I still remember. So my engineer at the time, we were like, because for whatever, like, we were going really well. And I remember he was like, "Oh, I think it was free practice, one of the free practices." And he was like, "Oh, that's P1, that's P2, back to P1, back to P2." So it was like swapping. I was like, "Oh, Jesus, maybe I have a little something around this track. Something's happening here." I would say, yeah, there was cars kind of in the distance on the outside. Was it their fault? Absolutely not. Like, would I have had to crash if they weren't there? Yes. But sometimes it's easy to be like, "Oh, it was them. That was their fault."
it wasn't me.
Entirely my fault. Like, sometimes you just make mistakes, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, and it just happened that the immediate consequence was quite spectacular, I guess.
It was a good crash. One of the ones that I'm more proud of, to be fair. Looked spectacular. But again, like, didn't even feel a thing. Like, didn't notice, didn't bat an eyelid.
No, good stuff. Yeah. Good. Good question from Andy Hoppers. He said, "This is a good question. What was Matt Jackson like as a teammate? Because there's a lot of love out there for Matt Jackson. I think
I say this to anyone who would listen. I would say Matt is the best teammate I've ever had. Like, really? He is phenomenal. So fast, so in touch with what the car is doing. And it's such a shame that he didn't get the opportunity. Well, he was meant to come back with Power Max, but then COVID hit and everything all went a bit all over the shop, which is a real shame, because I think he deserved to win the championship without a doubt.
Definitely.
And I learned more from him as a teammate than any other teammate that I've been part of. And that's not saying that I haven't learned stuff from everyone. I've learned stuff from every teammate I've been with, regardless of how fast or slow they are. But Matt was someone that I thought was genuinely just superb. And still to this day, I think he would be one of the quickest drivers if he was in the right car.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would love to see him back.
Yeah, so do I. And he was such a character because he just didn't care. like, he was just like, yeah, like he was just one of those guys that I always felt like being like, what? Why do you do this? Like, this seems really stressful for you, but you do not care. But
He's just like, next,
yeah,
just roll with it.
he's like, oh, that went well. Yeah, I guess it did. Yeah, wasn't bad. Like, could have been better, could have been worse. Don't know.
Fantastic. I always put him in the same bracket as Rob Austin. I think he's a similar kind of driver as well.
Yeah, it's so true.
Both good guys that we'd like to see back.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Must admit, the Alfa Romeo did look good, the white and green one.
Yeah, it was lovely. It's a shame he didn't stick around. Like, I feel like he, again, would be winning races and doing so well. But I guess, times are hard and it's difficult to raise these budgets to make it work. But he's still involved. I see him.
His speed works.
Yeah. I see him knocking around the paddock. The friendliest guy. Like, always see him. So I'm assuming he's helping there in some capacity.
Yeah. He's probably trying to understand Rory, isn't he?
Yeah. He's like he's acting as like a translator, I would say. Like, I'll try and get this across. That I can't talk. Like, I talk at a million miles an hour, and no one can understand me. But it's easy to cast judgment on this, on someone else.
Absolutely, Rory. If you see this, sorry.
Yeah. It's so cool.
I'm joking. So at the end of the year, you moved on from Motorbase. Went to BMR on the VW. Cool, slippery looking car. I loved it in the all black. Very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool car.
Love that. What sort of brought about that move?
So, to be fair, there was an opportunity to go across. My engineer from Motorbase was going to BMR, and I kind of knew the direction. So I met with the team and kind of saw where Warren was wanting to take it, and it kind of aligned with where I wanted to go. Like, I felt like they were a smaller operation than some of the others, but also had the right personnel in touch, from head engineers to staffing on the cars. And I thought, like, well, obviously we saw what they went on to achieve, and it's kind of cool to be like, well, I won their first ever touring car race, which is a really cool achievement.
Yes.
And it was, when we heard like Alan was going there as well, it all made sense. And it's almost odd to rehash those stories, because it was a great time, and I really enjoyed my time at BMR. I actually moved over when I finished. So I graduated as a structural engineer from university in Dublin. Literally the day after I graduated, I moved over and lived on site at BMR as part of the touring cars, which is, nobody knows, lived in a mobile home outside the workshop for like 2 years, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, now, I've never been to prison, but I would say, like, living in a mobile home when the pipes are freezing is the closest you can get to prison. But like, I think
Shawshank.
100%. Like, people look at us and think, oh, it's such a glamorous lifestyle. When I lived over with BMR, one of the accommodations was Warren owned an old pub, and upstairs the pub was closed. Upstairs there was probably 4 rooms. And when I moved over, all those rooms were taken by the mechanics. So my bedroom, and this is no word of a lie, I could dig up photos, was in the middle of the dining room in the pub. And all I did was move these fully set tables to one side and just put a double bed in the middle of this living hall. And like, that's where I lived for, I think I lived in that place for like 6 months. Then we moved to a mobile home, and it felt like the lap of luxury. It was just like, well, I was just like, oh my God, a toilet that isn't a urinal. This is so nice. like it was such a bizarre time. And like,
it flushes.
Like, this is crazy. Like, this is so luxurious. And I remember, because like Lauren moved over then, because then we were both able to go full time in the racing. So like, she spent the first year of being married, I think maybe 2 or 3 months in this pub. So we lived in the living room, where like 8 mechanics lived upstairs. There was 1 shower in the place. Not a great look, as you can imagine. Then we moved into a mobile home. But again, like, I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, I learned so much, but I also loved every second of it. Like even from being involved in the touring cars, I was involved a lot with. We had a junior kart team as well. Looked after that for BMR. So it was a really cool time, and no one probably knows those stories, but yeah, it was a different way to spend your early 20s.
I mean, there's probably a lot of us spent our early 20s in a pub, but not
Yeah,
quite the way you did.
I lived in one. Like I lived to the point where this pub like closed one day so sporadically that like when you go in the door, my whole door, like there were still coats on the coat hooks and everything. Like it was so odd. Like all the tables were set for dinner. There was coats hanging up. And like literally we just dragged 2 or 3 tables to one side and put a double bed in there. And
Wow.
that was like, we would go into the workshop all day. I'd work on the kart team, go to the gym in the evenings, come back at like 9, go to bed, get up at 5:30, do it all again. And that's all I did. Like, it was so bizarre.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
You must look back at that and just think, God, that was great. That was good fun.
like I think as I said, like it was so wild. Like it was so weird. Like we lived in this rural farming town, nothing around us, no shops, no restaurants, no nothing. It was crazy. And like just living on site, like eat, sleeping and drinking touring cars. That's all we did. Like it was mental.
Full immersion. Fantastic.
Yeah, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself because, like, it's those moments where you're like, "Am I really going to go down this road? Because this is for the rest of our lives if I commit to doing this." And I'm so glad we did.
That was the crossroads, and you
the
right road, obviously.
It was pretty cool. It was I don't know what my parents were thinking when I was like, "Yeah, here I'm going to go live in a mobile home or live in a pub over in England for a few years. So I'll see you soon, I guess. Bye." Yeah.
They're like, all right.
Yeah, it seems like a decision. Like it seems like something you would do. So go live your best life. Let's see what happens.
Why not? Give it a go. Off track, fun. On track, you took the first win for the team, Alton Park. It must have been good because it's a cool circuit, Alton Park. Obviously wasn't so good last time, but
it happens. It was good in qualifying. Qualifying was good. I'll take that. Yeah.
But first win though for the team, that's a cool thing to have.
It is cool. It is cool, and it was one that I feel like really grateful for both Warren and Vicky that owned the team, set up the team, and they did an amazing job with it. And it was really it was one of those memories that you'll never forget because like the whole team, it lifted the whole team, and I personally think it elevated the status of the team and put them on the projection to go on to eventually win the championship. And yes, it was a shame that we weren't part of the team at that phase in their journey, but that's life. Like I feel like I still loved it, and I still have a huge amount of time for everyone that was involved. And you see, even like obviously the mechanics are still knocking around. Like it's really cool to be like, oh, do you remember that time we lived together, or we used to go mountain biking together? Like it's so bizarre. But yeah, to win the first race for them at Alton was a really special moment for me.
Yeah, I'll bet. Excuse me. Obviously, quite a different focus in the VW. I mean, was it a marked difference, or was it just something you get used to?
Like it's weird. Like even people ask me, like, is it hard to jump from right-hand drive to left-hand drive? It's actually not. Like driving a touring car, you just get in and adapt. Like yes, the CC was slippy at a straight line and probably more stable at high speed than a hatchback. But what works in a front-wheel drive car works. Doesn't matter what chassis looks like, anything like that. So all the technique and everything stayed the same. Slight adjustments just to get used to like more understeer and a few other little bits within the car. But no, it wasn't that big of a transition because I've always found once one car is fast, it stays fast. Like I think we went on to qualify on like the front row at 5 of the 10 race weekends next year in that thing. Like it was mentally fast. I was like, oh, this is great crack. I'm really enjoying this.
It was good fun above anything else, which is
listen, I feel like a superstar. This is really cool. I love rocking up and being like, watch how fast this is going to be. It's outrageous.
So check this out, guys. Yeah. And you had certain Swiss chap we mentioned earlier on, Alan Menu. Now, I mean, I actually met him. Very cool. I don't get nervous meeting people, really. But I'm like, Alan Menu. Because everyone goes to like the lagoon and everything.
Yeah.
I go to Formula 3 back in the late 80s because I'm that old. But I saw him at the Super Touring Power, and I was in the middle of a conversation. I was just saying, "Oh yeah, I've been doing so and so," and "Oh yeah, that's Alan Menu. Just go away," and just beeline straight for him. And I went,
"He's the nicest guy, like
lovely guy, and just sneak people with trying to sort something out."
Oh, cool, amazing. He's such an interesting character.
Does he try and get him on here? So
does he still live in Scotland?
Well, he's got a place in Geneva and just outside Dunfermline.
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
Two identical places. They've both got lakes.
I know when whatever year it was, he then met someone and moved over to Scotland during the year, which was really cool. But he's the nicest guy. For someone who has been so successful in the world of motorsport, he has literally no ego attached to him, and I love that about him.
I found that he's really quiet.
Yeah.
And almost, I don't know, almost like deadpan sort of.
Oh, he's eerie. Like, you don't know.
He's just say something and you think, are you joking?
Oh, like I remember being sat in the truck with him at one point, and someone from the team would come in and he'd be like, I don't really like how the floor is hoovered. Could we hoover it the other way moving forward? And I remember being like, is he joking? Is he not? It was never clarified. I was like, okay. And another one was how he liked his fruit cut. I was like, interesting perspective. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure the fruit one was a joke. But you just don't know. He's a bit of an oddball, but cool in that sense. There's something about him that you're like, yeah, you're a pretty slick Rick, to be fair.
Yeah, and he was
years.
I mean, but you must have learned a lot from him because he's raced single seaters, he's raced touring, he's raced everywhere.
Yeah, very nice.
Brilliant.
And I felt like what I learned most from him was how he conducted a team around him, if that makes sense.
Right.
How he had a leadership role and was able to not inspire, but was able to work closely with everyone. There was no us versus them. It was right, let's all elevate the status of what we can achieve here, regardless if you're the chief engineer or you're an apprentice this is their first race weekend. Everyone was treated the same, and I love that about him.
That's brilliant. Class act right there. Class act. Yeah, top man. Obviously, we mentioned that you had Colin and Jason as your teammates. I mean, wow, his teammates.
It was cool.
Then you Plato Turkington's pretty good.
It is. It was amazing. It was an amazing season with both of them. And I'll always remember there were so many points in that year that were equally as entertaining as they were hard. But at the same time, I loved how competitive it was. We all wanted to beat each other. We all were getting the most out of the car. And I feel we did a great job in qualifying all year, but probably their experience stood to them over the course of the season. And that was probably the dividing factor. And it was a really eye opener. I can see why Colin has been so successful in recent years because of his approach to race weekends. And I absolutely admire what he has achieved because it's phenomenal. And same with Jason. Jason is a character. And I've always, it's a funny one. He's a character. But the championship needs that, and I am so for it. Yes, maybe we're probably not the best of the best fit, but at the same time, that is okay. I could still respect what he's achieved and be he's a really good driver. And to this day, we would always stop and say hello to each other. I'm kind of just he's actually just a decent guy, but a fierce competitor, and I love that.
Yeah, I mean, he came on here for a chat, and he just doesn't give a monkey, does he? He just he just goes and does his thing, his way.
Yeah, and I love that.
You can't knock anyone for that.
No, so I'm that's how you are. That's how you are. I appreciate and I respect how he conducts himself, but at the same time, as I said, being a fierce competitor, I love that. I want to be challenged to the end of this earth. That's what it's all about. And he definitely did that. So I have a load of time for that, and maybe don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have done anything different over the years. So I'm kind of just I am who I am. That's maybe why we don't get along as well as some others do.
That's fine, though. We can't all get on, can we?
No, but that sounds bad. Like, there's no controversy there. I'm like, yeah,
No,
he's a
no.
really good driver, and I hope he would say the same about me.
Sure he will.
Like, I'm totally chill with it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Next move was like Team BKR. Then it was only one team. Only 1 year, wasn't it? They had, and you were in there.
It was.
That was an interesting year from the looks of it, because again, you went in, same car, different team, and you won a race, and it was like, and I don't mean to come out the wrong way, but because you were thereabouts all through the year, and then all of a sudden, Rockingham, bang,
Yeah,
you won. I was like,
that's
hang on,
pretty outrageous. No, do you know something? Like,
fantastic.
I feel like I was actually only texting Nico earlier, who was a team owner and team manager from BKR, and because like we're still really good friends. But I think what I loved about that year, there was probably 4 of us. Like, it was such a small team,
Really?
but we over the year just maximized everything we had, and we probably didn't have the budget that was needed to make it, to be as competitive at winning every weekend. But when the opportunity was there to take it, I think we had a podium at like the first race weekend, and then went on to have another one the next time, and then ended up winning at Rockham. I was like, what is going on? But it was pretty outrageous.
I mean, I just love that. It's a small team. You got, I think it was the second race of the season. You came third.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on?
Rockingham, and what fantastic!
Everyone, like, it was. I genuinely like. I can all those guys, because we had, I think Árón and I got married that year. They all came to our wedding and all. Like, it was that small of a team that it was literally, when I think about it, the people that were full time on it was Nico, Alex, my number 1, and Connor, our number 2. That was it. There was literally 3. Like, that was it. And like, then on the weekend we'd have a few more people that would come along to help, but it wasn't like this entourage that you see the other teams. Like, with no hospitality, with no nothing. It was so funny. It was kind of like, I remember, like, at one point, one of the memories that I'll always take from that year is we were at was it Donington? Oh, I can't remember where we were for the media day, and the car arrived just on a flat loader. I was like, oh, there's our touring car. We're gonna eventually go on to win races, and that's pretty cool. And another really cool story about the Rockingham one was we actually arrived at the track on the Friday without an engine in the car. So it was like we needed to sort out Swindon stuff. But it got sorted in the end, and like literally the engine only came back to us at the circuit on like the Friday night. And we went on to win on Sunday. Like, that's how like small knit of a team it was. But I think that's what made it one of the more memorable years, to be fair.
Oh, that's amazing. Obviously, I didn't know that about the engine.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's cool stuff. Like, there's cool stuff. Like, I actually have a few funny stories. One of the races we won with BMR. The week before it, I was at Pembrey, had a massive crash. No, I'm pretty sure it was the Tuesday of the race weekend. We were at Pembrey, and we were playing around with some braking system. Anyway, we had legitimate brake failure to the point where like the pedal just went hard and there was no brakes. Had this huge crash, ended up in hospital on like the Tuesday. They got the car stripped, sent to Willie Pools, and I think it came back on the Friday morning of SNET. It was at SNET. And then we went on to win race 3. So it was like, sometimes you don't see those sides of it where it's like, oh, this isn't great. Like, this is not going to end well. Like, the car was destroyed. I've never seen a car crash so badly. But to be honest, in my defense, that wasn't my fault that time. But they got it put straight, and we went on to win. No different to how we turned up to Rockingham with no engine and then went on to win.
There's a weird moral here. You don't have to prepare to the nth degree.
No. Preparation just gives you more opportunity of failure. Expectations build. Forget about that. If you go in thinking, I don't know what's going to happen, you end up winning. It's an easy mantra to have. Much more sound approach.
That's got to be on a t-shirt.
I don't know. No, I feel like it comes down to when you have the right people involved, you get the most out of what you have. Like
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Like you only need, that was three people working on the car. Like a number one, a trainee number two at the time. That was his first season in motorsport,
Wow.
and then Nico was the team manager, which was pretty cool. But that was when I was living in the mobile home at BMR as well, because BKR was ran from BMR.
Yeah.
And so we were able to do everything together, from stickering the cars up to being like, what is this? Like, what are we doing?
What's going to happen next?
Yeah.
What a brilliant way to go racing, though, especially in the brilliant.
It was crazy.
Yeah, and just on that, it's a shame we lost. Shame we lost like Rockingham, because it was, everyone seemed to enjoy Rockingham. So it's a shame
it would be cool to go back there. Like, it's a shame that circuit didn't go. Like, I feel it was it was a great spectators one, great circuit to drive. But championships move on, and I think now it's more or less a car park, isn't it? Which is a shame.
Yeah, exactly. It's a storage. It's a pity Pembrey isn't big enough to host a round of the BTCC. Yeah, true. It's a lovely circuit.
Cool. Anglesey as well. That track, I've never been to
Anglesey's another one,
but it looks really nice. And I'm like, why don't we go here? It'd be so easy for the boat. But it would be cool to do something out that side of the country.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Yeah, and who was it? Someone described it as the Phillip Island of the UK.
I like that. Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's brilliant or a push. I'm not.
Yeah. That is creative marketing for sure. That's out there.
Feels like that should be on the website. But no, fantastic. Just to progress it a bit. I mean, you went back to 888 racing 2017. Is it you and was it Josh? Josh
Dan Lloyd started the year, and then Josh finished it with
that's it. That's it. It just felt like the car never really sort of got there. It felt like a maybe, almost like one of those like nearly seasons.
It was. I think what was hard is the year before it had quite a bit of success, and that was in the crossover of the hybrid of the changes between GPRM and RML. So the year before, it had the hybrid kit, which now sounds like a bad choice of words considering we run hybrid motors. But it had some GPRM, some RML. So then when we went full RML in the year that we went to, it just didn't work with the chassis, unfortunately. Right. And it was hard work. Like, it was a year of what should have been, in my opinion. And it was difficult. Like, it was probably one of the more taxing years in the touring car bubble, because we were up against it. We didn't have a competitive enough package. And it was a shame, because it could have been something great, but it just didn't go our way that year.
Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, it was almost highlighted the year. Well, not just for you.
Oh, you had a great crash. Why did you lead with that?
That one at Croft.
One.
I mean, obviously, you got away relatively lightly, I guess, didn't you?
I did. Like, do you know something? My claim to fame is technically I died, which is really cool. So they had to resuscitate me at the side of the track. So this is a really terrifying story. So but actually, it makes me laugh so much, because now I fully believe I'm indestructible. Like, I'm literally like, if I can survive that, I can survive anything.
Sure.
So apparently, when they got to the cars, which is a sad thing to say, they assumed that my car was a fatality because of the impact and how it all looked, and I just wasn't doing anything. Like, I was out. But how it works is, whenever the medical cars get to an accident, they have to serve the car that they stop with, or they arrive at first. So luckily, my car was the first car in the train of chaos.
Right.
So they were able to resuscitate me at the side of the track, and bring me back to life. And which is quite impressive, but I don't remember anything. Like, I don't remember waking up.
Do you remember the build up to it or anything? Or
absolutely nothing. Which is it's even better, because that day was my wife's birthday, and she was at the track as well. So it was crap way for her to spend her birthday. Full disclosure. But I remember nothing. Like, it was because I had all my heart monitor straps on and everything, and you go from 180 beats, because you're at the height of qualifying, to nothing. Like, literally just out cold. Jeez. And to be fair, if the medical team didn't do as good of a job as they did, there's no way I'd be here, which is quite impressive. and it's
That's incredible.
I know and like so like I remember bits because people have told me the stories, and it's so funny because it's so me. So like I was obviously unconscious, like out cold, stopped breathing, stopped everything. They brought me back to life. They got me to the medical center, and I'll never forget the story that like I still don't remember any of this. I asked where I'd qualified, and we'd qualified fifth. I was like, holy shit, like fix this car, I'm going to be fine, right? So with that, I proceeded to try and get up off the hospital bed and walk out. Little did I know I'd broken one of my legs and torn the ligaments in the other and just fell straight on the ground and collapsed again. And like it gets better, right? So I got sent to this like mad doctor somewhere in the UK. I don't even know where it is anymore. What they did was they lasered the bone back together in my leg, so to make sure I wouldn't miss a race. So they do a lot of work with like MotoGP riders, and
okay.
their claim to fame is if someone falls on a Friday and breaks a collarbone, they can have them back on the bike on the Saturday with the work that they do. So
wow,
some kind of weird, they laser it and it puts more oxygen into the bone, and like they'll do scans throughout the whole thing, and it healed in like, so I was in a wheelchair for maybe 2 weeks, and then week 3 I was back in the car, no dramas.
Wow.
Yeah,
kind of cool story. To that.
Yeah, no, like it's one of those ones that I'm like, that's a cool memory to have. I feel like it was an interesting birthday for Árón, but like I don't remember any of it. And if anything, again, it just goes to show how safe these cars are. Like I'm literally like, if they looked at the car and were like, they're not going to survive that, and I'm here thinking it was funny, I think it's pretty entertaining.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, and obviously, like Jeff and
yeah,
Luke, but they're both back and they're doing it, and they're
like I think they had a harder time on the recovery side.
Where coma, wasn't he? Luke Davenport, he was put into a coma because he had something.
I think so. Like I remember, because obviously I got quite a bad concussion. That was probably the worst part of it. Even though like we had to, because I was living in the mobile home that year. I had to move out of the mobile home and go live in a disabled room in a local Holiday Inn. I had to get put up in for like 2 weeks because I couldn't move. So I had to leave my beloved mobile home at BMR and stay in a Holiday Inn in a disabled room. And like Árón had to run around after me. I remember one day I asked her to go get me Nando's from around the corner and brought it back to me in bed. Best 2 weeks of my life.
You know, try it again at Croft this year. No.
Yeah, no, I will. No, because I want to win this time. So that's not going to happen.
The great comment just from, where are we? Colin Peach, who's actually a racing instructor down at Thruxton. Hello, Colin. He says, your wife needs a medal. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Like for just putting up with me in general, like I'm an absolute melt. But yeah, like that was not my finest moment, I would say. But at the same time, it's who I am.
Yeah, it happened, and it's a story. And
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you.
I'm always good for an entertaining or bad story. That's what's quite entertaining about me.
We love it. We love all that. I mean, I don't know if you follow the bikes. There's a guy called Brad Jones, the British Superbikes, and he crashed at Brands Hatch and really did a number on himself. He very kindly came on here, first chat.
Yeah.
Since then, and I asked him obviously about it, and he hasn't got barely any memory of it. And I said, "What was the last memory you had?" And he said it was doing the track walk on the Friday. Yeah. And then what was the next memory? And he said it was 9 weeks later, and I was in the hospital wondering what the hell happened.
Wow.
Did you have it? Do you have anything like the last memory before and the first one after, or is it just
I don't remember anything of the day. Don't remember getting up in the morning. Don't remember anything. Can't really remember anything from the Friday. I remember I remember the Sunday night, being in the hospital and waking back up, even though it had happened at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, waking up in the evening, being like, why am I here? Like, I feel fine. Like, and then I remember like all the car crew were there, and I was like, is the car going to be okay for tomorrow? And everyone was like, you're going to have to let that go, I'm afraid. That's not happening. That ain't coming together. So yeah, that would be waking back up in the hospital that night. and being like, yeah, I'm going to be fine. Like, it never crosses your mind. Like, it's saying, like, you're just like, I guess it's just how you're wired. You want to be the best you can be. And if they had said, "Oh, the car will be ready in the morning," I would have been back in it without a doubt. Like, no questions asked. I would have been like, "Right, let's go." Like, I'll figure it out.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Love that. Love it. It's a good question about Anglesey from Dave Cox, known as Zeus. Hello, Dave.
Yeah.
Would you do race of remembrance at Anglesey? That's a cool thing to do.
It's a really cool thing. And again, it would be so easy for me to get to because it's right beside the smoke. I've never had the opportunity to do it because normally November-ish, isn't it? And sometimes we end up going away at the end of the season, just have a bit of a break. But if there wasn't a clash, I'd love to do it. Like, at the same time, it's for a fantastic like event, and I feel like it's one at the end of the year that everyone would love to be a part of. And so, yeah, if the opportunity was there, I definitely would do it.
Excellent. Let's make that happen.
Yeah,
I'm just keeping an eye on the time. I don't want to be keeping it on too late. That was like the last season you had at the BTCC for a while. Was it just time for a new challenge, something different?
I felt like that was a pretty mentally taxing season. I never fell out of love with motorsport, but I wanted a new challenge. Like, that was the true thought, that I wanted something different to kind of refine more skill, do something different, see different paddocks. So we made the decision at the end of 2017 to walk away from it, which it was hard at the time because we had a lot of friends in the paddock. But yeah, we wanted to try something different, and I loved the GT world. Like, the cars are phenomenal. They are so fast. Like, you're kind of like a GT3 car. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to go that fast. Like, it's crazy. And they're so entertaining to drive.
We spoke to Rick Parfitt. Obviously, he's had some success in that. I think you drove a similar car, like the Bentley. And he said the same thing. He says, "I'm in this big, heavy brute of a Bentley, and it's going like the clappers." And he said it was a very odd experience.
It's like the car was difficult to drive in like second gear hairpins. You felt like you were on the edge. And then you're doing 150 or 60 mile an hour through like flat out whatever, right hand, left handers, and the car feels effortless. It's like the polar opposite. Like, if you drove it at slow speed, you would think, I'm never going to go fast in this. This thing is trying to kill me at every opportunity. And then it like settles down when you're doing like 150 mile an hour. But it was that was great to do, and even to win that silver race in Blancpain was really impressive and really enjoyable. Like, such a hard championship. Like, that Blancpain sprint they're all Formula One drivers. At the end of the day, there's every name that's on that grid, phenomenal drivers.
And I think that kind of gets overlooked. There's the quality of the drivers on it. I think I had Michael Crease on a few weeks ago, and he said the same thing about the Porsche Super Cup. He said they're all F1 drivers who didn't have the budget. He said they're all top guys.
Or they are literal F1 drivers that aren't doing it anymore. And that was
they've come back and
so it was amazing to get the opportunity to do it. And I loved it. Like, you see some really cool tracks. Like, don't get me wrong, Misano in like June beside a beach is probably more picturesque than Croft at the end of July. The racing just wasn't the same. Like, it didn't fuel the passion that I have for the sport as much as I thought it would. I love the cars, but like, the racing just wasn't the same. Like, it's not as cutthroat. You're not as action backed. So
that's a consistency thing, isn't it?
That's it. And I found, like, even when we were all around Europe doing this Blancpain, I was still watching TSL for the touring cars to see how people were getting on. So I was like, my heart was always in that to come back to do it. Yeah.
But you had a crack at the British GT the following year with Sam Smelt. I think he's a very underrated driver. I don't think he's a GT driver, isn't he? I think he's more suited to that thumping and assistant laps. But you got to thump around in a Mustang. I mean, that's a cool car.
Yeah, it was like the GT4 one. It was a very interesting. Like, it was a very good season. Great car, great kit, and like, I felt like the team, if we'd done another year with it, would have really leveled up and learned all the processes. But it was still brilliant. Like I was out with Multimatic in Canada at one point during the year, which was quite cool. Did quite a few, like had quite a few opportunities off the back of it, which was incredible. And it was a great championship, great car, great championship. But I felt like, again, like that year, I was always just eyeing up coming back to touring cars. And even at certain points, we looked like I'll come back even before the end of the season. But it just never aligned. And then obviously COVID hit, which was the perfect stopgap to be like, right, let's put all our emphasis on getting back into touring cars.
Okay, I was going to say, I mean, obviously that, you know, those 2 years were 18, 19.
Yeah.
And I mean, were you thinking of getting something together for 2020, but obviously then COVID hit, and was it a case of, right, let's just...
And it didn't come, like,
take a year out.
One of the teams obviously we spoke to was Árón, and I was very serious about doing it with him. And really wanted to, but it just didn't align in that particular season. And I think COVID was probably the main reason why, because the hospitality wasn't possible for all of my partners. And I know that sounds like such a really weird, pedantic thing, but at the same time, why would companies spend the money that they should have been or could have been if they can't entertain any guests at it? So
the first person who really flagged that up was Matt Neal came on in 20. Oh, when was his last year? Was it 2020? Yeah, 2020. And I already knew that it wasn't going to continue, and I had to keep it stum. But he was the first person to say that was the main killer. Yep. Obviously, the condensed season wasn't great for the for the drivers and the crew, but he said in terms of the actual series, it was the hospitality.
It
wanted to keep people interested when they're not getting anything back.
That's it. It decimated what you could do with your partnerships because you can't have anyone trackside. So, like, half the experience is being at the circuit and being able to to smell the fumes and talk to the drivers and see the cars. You take that out of the equation, you're not getting the value for the money, in my opinion. And if I was, like, I always look at it whenever I'm working through partnership agreements, that if I was sat on the other side of the desk, what would I want back? And one of the key things is being able to have a huge staff and customer engagement number. The only way to do that is through your hospitality. So if it's not possible, why would you spend tens of thousands to do it? Because the return is a percentage of what it should be.
It's a fraction, isn't it? And so it's fully understandable why.
And so if anything, it allowed me to consolidate the partners that we had and then put together a more effective program, from media outlets to media creation to activations to charity work to everything that goes within it. Because sometimes you get stuck in the Ferris wheel of being like, yeah, that is good enough. But then when you step back and you really evaluate it from as if I was sponsoring someone, you can really see that the sticker on the car or the helmet is the icing on the cake. That is, if you're relying solely on that, you'll never be successful, because while it's a sport, it has to be a commercial business. And I think COVID allowed me to put the time in to build that structure to make it possible.
Yeah, there's almost a positive out of
a
horrendous situation.
I like don't get me wrong, COVID had a lot of implications, but at the same time, it allowed me to resurrect the touring cars and actually get back into the championship. And I think we're on a good path now.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I mean, you came back with like Team Hard, with Tony, who obviously, I guess you should, who everyone knows. Everyone knows Tony. He's great. The Cooper, there's a question about the Cooper, which we'll come to in a minute. Was that kind of a bit of a draw with a new car? And...
It was. I felt like I again, like, what Tony has created is remarkable. Like, it's a very hard championship to pave a team in it. And I think next year could be, or is it this year that's the 10th season? Is it this year or next year? Which is so impressive. And I think building the new car was a massive draw. Like, I felt like up until, 21, they probably just didn't have the equipment that they needed. And because they've had great drivers in the likes of Jack and a few others coming in and out. And
obviously.
Exactly. And like, the new car was a draw, and I loved it. Like, I loved being part of the development, part of the process, and it got us back into the grid. And I always kind of knew our long-term goal is to be on this grid for another 20 years. So that was step one. And I feel like I have nothing but respect for what Tony has done. Like sometimes when people leave teams, they have something bad to say, oh, this wasn't done or that wasn't done. Well, actually, no. Like anything he promised me, he did. And he delivered on it, hand over fist. Is that the saying? I don't know. But he did a great job. That's the moral of this story. And I really enjoyed the 2 years. Really, really enjoyed them. And again, I learned a lot from Tony in terms of commercial entities that can come off the back of it and building that network.
Yeah, fantastic. And they're like the people's team as well. You know, a lot of people have followers because they're just so open and engaging with everyone.
They're a great bunch. Really, like there's not a bad heart in that team, which is really nice and it's really uncommon to be around. Everyone's there because they love the sport, and I think, you know, well, they've done really well this year. They've obviously, the car has progressed, and I think I'm happy to see that. Like, yeah, like I'd like to always be beating them, but I'd like to be beating everyone. So that's part of the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in your time there, I mean, it was like you and sort of it was like you and Bobby Thompson seemed to be the ones could have, you know, that were getting more out of the car. I mean, you know, you had a couple of top 10s and some 11th places. You're always fitting around the top of the top 10, which I think in the first year with that car and the team and everything, is probably about as much as you could have done. I mean, it was impressive to see. It was really good.
No, I appreciate that. And like, yeah, I think that was probably where that package was at that time and getting the most out of it. And I felt like it was, you know, I think when we sat down in the winter and we looked at like long-term objectives and where I want to be in 5 years, it just made sense to have a change. Now, change can be for the better, it can be for the worse. Luckily, it has been for me, it has been better, not because the team are better than Team Hard or anything like that, just because what they're doing aligns more with what I'm doing, if that makes sense. And the synergy then exists. So it was really good, and we were always at the goal of that top 10 with the Cupra, where now I feel our goal is the top 5 or get on the podium. Like I feel like now it's progressed further up. So yeah, I think that the switch has paid dividends.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a question here. Mark O'Neill put a question. He said, "Yeah, the Astra is so you've gone from one of the newer cars on the grid to the oldest one."
Yeah.
And he just said, very simple question. He said, "How are you and the rookies, Andrew and Mikey? How are you guys getting the car up there? Because everyone's saying, oh, the car's old. It's on its last leg.
Yeah.
2 years ago, it should be replaced and blah, blah, blah. And you guys are up there.
No, I think like the thing
Stomping
is,
in there.
if anything, what I've learned is new is not always best. Sometimes having that archive of engineering experience. And I think one thing that people don't realize about the Astra is that it has constantly evolved over time. Like in 2021, the shells were heavily upgraded. So they went to basically a new version of a roll cage and by stiffening everything up. And that made a huge jump in performance. But even this year, to the naked eye, you won't notice it. But a lot of the bodywork is different on the car. So even in terms of aero efficiency, it has improved from last year to this year. And it's constantly evolving. So while you can say it has done, I don't know, 6 seasons, 7, whatever it may be, no 2 seasons have been identical. It has always progressed. And yes, each year, 5% of the car may be new, 10% may be new. And it's that constant evolution and development that pushes it to the front. And I think now we're seeing that. We're seeing the 3 Series of WSR, which has probably done a lot of seasons as well, but it's massively successful because it's constantly evolved.
Fifth season they've had, I think it's the 5th season. So it's not far behind the Astra.
No, and I think people sometimes overlook them. We're like, oh, that Astra's done loads. It really hasn't. Like the shells are immaculate because they're all done in-house. So anything they ever need, they can do in the workshop themselves, and it's done to the highest standard I've ever seen. And I think that's why we're seeing the cars going so fast. And I think one thing the team probably lacked over the few years is probably just continuity with drivers. It's chopping and changing that makes it difficult. And I feel as though I've found a home within PowerMax, and I would love to stay there. Like I feel like my goal is to be their driver, no different to how Matt Jackson was Motorbase's driver, and just pave a career within the team and and grow within the structure with Adam and Martin and whatnot.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah, you're just so comfortable there and things.
I love it. Like, I think it's that thing. They're all really like-minded, and they're all like the attention to detail is something that has blown me away this year. And I think that's where we're seeing the gains coming. We saw last week how fast the car can be now over one lap, which has been something that may not have been at the forefront of everyone's mind up until this point. And now I feel we have a package that can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I want to touch on something that Andy Hopley's just put in there, iHoppers. He says, and I agree with this, just on the very basic level, it looks amazing as well. It looks, I mean, and he said he saw it at Snetterton, he'll see it at Craft. I saw you at Media Day, came to say hi, and when it would throw it down, I ducked into the carriage.
Yeah.
And they do look absolutely fantastic.
Wow. Like,
brilliant color scheme, that kind of blue green.
It's very cool. They've done a very, like, to be fair, like Adam's done a really good job with all the branding and everything, and it works so well. Like, I feel like it's such a striking livery, and it also accommodates every sponsor. And it looks the absolute business, and I feel like even things like my Briggs Equipment like golf buggy that's fully branded up in the livery of the car is really cool to see. Like, I feel like those things, because the image of everything is so nice and works together, it's been a big hit, to be fair. It's very cool.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Just one thing I needed to come back to. I did say I was going to ask this question. Back to the Cupra. Very quickly. You said, what's your thoughts on the Cupra, and what does it have missing to win races, as it's probably the only new car not to win a race yet? Good question.
That's a very good question. Do you know, like, I probably have an indication, but then I wouldn't give that away, because that's one race that I don't have the potential of winning. Then I'm not in the
Yeah.
I know. Look, I say that, but they've brought in some extremely, like Barry Plowman, even Kev Berry was there at the start of the year, some very good engineers, and it has improved. I think I'd love to see Bobby win a race, only if I've won race 1 and 2, and he goes on to win race 3. Then I'll be happy with that. But apart from that, I feel like, do I think it has potential to win the race, to win a race? Yes, I do. But there's probably a few areas that maybe could be sharpened up. I don't know. Like, they've obviously done a great job this year, and having not driven the kind of evolved version of it, it'd be difficult for me to say. But yeah, I feel like it has potential. I just don't know when that will be.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, one more question before we get onto the fun bits at the end that we like to do. Darren Morley, evening, Darren. He says, how much difference does the hybrid make in the feel of the speed in the car? That's a good question, because I was watching, I mean, obviously, we've all seen the ballast, and it's blindingly obvious what even from outside the ropes. The hybrid, though, obviously you can use it to attack, defend, whatever.
Yeah.
Bit like the push to pass in the IndyCar.
Do you feel it in the car?
Do you feel like a surge or a?
Yeah, like you do, but it would be like a strong wind on this. Like, you know, when you're driving in the motorway and like a gust of wind, like kind of like you're like, "Wow, that did something there." That's what it feels like, except it's pushing you from behind. I guess that's a good way to describe it. I think the hybrid system is very good. Like, I feel like, you know, the corporate answer is it aligns more with car manufacturers, and it brings the championship into, you know, more manufacturer-based programs, which is the truth. I feel I probably may have preferred the penalty system of the weight in the car, because you have the compound interest, which what I mean by that is, when you take the hybrid out of the car, yes, your ultimate lap time may be a half second slower, but it will stay a half second slower for the duration of the race. Sure. So you're not having to take into account extra degradation of tires, brakes. But when you put 70 kilos in the car was a half a second slower on lap 1, but by the end of the race, it was a second and a half a lap slower.
Because everything gets worse and worse.
You also have the advantage of, or the one thing that the weight used to do, when you put the weight in the car, you would have to change the setup based on covering the weight. As the weight came out of the car, you can sharpen it up, change the setup back. Where with the hybrid, you can run the same setup on the races. Right. So I think, like anything, refinement is key. And I think they've improved the system this year, especially reliability. Like, it has been so much better. And And I think they will, like, it's always just about making it as competitive as possible. And I would hate to be the people within Toka coming up with the regulations, because it's so hard to keep everyone happy. Like, everyone would love to have a moan, but actually they're doing a really good job.
Yeah. That's why I'll always have an opinion, but I'll never be too full on with it, because I wouldn't want to do it. It's like being a politician.
If you ask me, I'll go in and come up with the regulations. I'll be like, I have no idea what this is. Like, I literally, like, it still bemuses me that, like, a rear-wheel drive 3 Series and a front-wheel drive Vauxhall Astra produce the same lap time. I'm like, how have you done this? Like, these are so different, but yet they're so similar. I don't get it. So I wouldn't be capable of doing any regulations.
No, same here. I'm not going to criticize or praise too much, because I just no idea. No, cool. Very quick, Craig Jones said we need to mention the Briggs Buggy Vengabus tune, which Aaron really likes.
Oh yeah. So there's Briggs kitted out our buggy this year. There are 2 tunes on it. One I'm not going to refer to because it almost makes me sound a bit too cocky. But the other one, which was the one that I chose, which is the Vengabus tune. So it has speakers on it that whenever you're driving it, you can put the Vengabus tune on, which is actually so entertaining. And it is like, that buggy is like my pride and joy. Fun fact. Should I say that? Probably will. It'll be fine. Someone tried to steal it at Alton, which I thought was very impressive.
A member of the public or someone?
Yeah, someone from the public just decided to have a go. And I was like, well, fair play. They didn't get out. They got to like the main road and then were stopped at the entrance. I was like, you know something? That is bravery at its finest. I'm well impressed. And it's something that I'd give it a go myself. Hats off.
It's obviously worth stealing.
It's cool buggy. Now I'm hoping throughout that whole joyride that they were listening to the Vengabus song playing full tilt as they're trying to get out.
It could be why they stopped. Who knows?
Yeah. They're like, I can't do this. This is driving me insane.
Oh, fantastic. Well, good. That's a bit of fun. Right, leading on to a bit of fun. We'll just have some little fun questions right at the end, just to wind it down, because it's been 2 hours. It's flown.
It flies. Like, I have no idea. The only way I know is I'm like, geez, I'm getting tired. If this is in the morning, I would sit here all day. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, that's just an age thing for me.
Yeah.
When the age begins with a 4, you start struggling. Good question from Andy French, which we're going to come to in just a second, Andy. I'll give you credit in a minute. Are there any other motorsport series that you follow particularly closely above anything else outside the BTCC, or is it just...
like, this sounds awful? I don't watch any motorsport, like literally nothing. And I think it's because I'm involved in it all the time. I absolutely love the NFL, so I watch American football all the time. So
who's your team?
Arizona Cardinals. So
okay.
like I'm a big, so like I'm guessing you follow the NFL as well, do you? Okay, so what team would you support?
I support one team for a very childish reason. I was like 7 or 8, and it was in the semi-final, and it was the Bengals against the 49ers. Yeah. And the San Francisco 49ers were in red and gold. I went, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So ever since, that's literally it. And that's why I support the San Jose Earthquakes. It's why I support the...
I feel like I could talk to you about Brock Purdy. Like, I am big, like Kittle is probably my favorite player in the NFL, and he's a great tight end. But it's like, the NFL is the only sport that I describe them as real athletes. When you go to watch them, like we went out to Florida because I really wanted to see Brady play, and that was a cool experience because and I've never been starstruck. So like, this is a bit of a tangent. Gotta explain this story because it's worth it. So it was probably the best day of my life because I ran the Disney Marathon in the morning, which was a cool experience. Then we went down to the Bucs Stadium. We bought the tickets as we were like pulling up on like Ticketmaster. So you get the season ticket holders tickets that they're not using. So we were sat 6 rows back from the halfway line on the Bucs side. And I swear to God, like, you could hear Brady talking to his teammates. That's how close we were.
Wow.
When he first came out, right, I have never been starstruck in my life. When he first came out and I saw him, I nearly started crying. I was like, what is happening? Like I have never been so impressed by someone. And it was the game where the Gronk went on to get his extra million for his catch bonus. So it was the last regular season game that he was meant to play the year before last, but then he came back last year as well. But yeah, sorry. So I don't watch any motorsport, but I'm a massive NFL fan, and we'll talk to anyone about it until the cows come home.
That's cool. I like the NFL as well.
Yeah, good sport.
Although I keep getting invited to the games at Wembley or to the or to the Tottenham Stadium, which I won't go to because I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm not having that.
Fair.
But I said that no, my first NFL game's got to be in the States.
I've done them in England. I went to see the Cardinals play in England, and it was great. But the experience out in the States is second to none. Like
just any sport in the States,
it's just the best. And like I always say, like don't prepay tickets. Go on Ticketmaster or any of those like StubHub an hour before the game, and you'll get incredible tickets that should have cost like $3 or $4 a ticket for like 50 quid. It's unbelievable.
Top travel tip right there.
It's good travel. I'm like TripAdvisor. Like book a trip, go to see the 49ers play, only buy tickets when you're at the stadium.
Do it when you're there, yeah. I mean, we did the same thing. We went to see some baseball in Cincinnati, cheap as chips. Great day out. Great fun.
It's so good. Like it's such a good way to experience it, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what we got here? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, is there one series, BTCC aside, obviously, that you'd love to have a go in, whether it be, I don't know, like IMSA or endurance, NASCAR, Le Mans, anything?
I think NASCAR would be cool. I feel like having an Irish twang and going out there would be quite cool to do. And like I always joke with Dan Mayo that I'm going to get to NASCAR at one point in my life, and Dan is going to be my undisclosed driver manager to make that happen. And he is yet to come with anything that has a sniff of reality to it, other than the fact of I think because you're Irish, you would do well out there. That's all. That's all that we have.
They take to you, yeah.
It would be cool to go out and do something like that because it's such a sport out there.
Yeah, it's huge. I'd love to go. It's on the bucket list. As I said, I've done the Indy 500 and it's Daytona 500 is the one I want to do. Or just Talladega because that just looks utter lunacy. Okay. Best racing car you've ever driven? Sorry, that was Andy French's question. That's all.
Really good question. I would say, like, I don't know. Like I would love to be able to say something like really like controversial and all. Probably like the Bentley, the GT3 was phenomenal. It was such a unique experience. But like, not to bring it back to this year, but I really like the Astra. Like in terms of car, it really suits me. So I actually really like it. And while it's not like, because you've seen someone driving into Tesco to get their weekly shop in an Astra, it probably is less glamorous than a Bentley, but at the same time, that's probably the truth.
I think it's great because obviously with the age of the car and all that goes on, it's great that there's so much love for it from the guy who knows it better than anyone, which is fantastic.
True.
Yeah, great stuff. Okay, favorite circuit you've driven and one that you'd love to have a go round.
I would say favorite circuit is probably Spa, just because of like it's like a different world when you go out, and the circuit's so vast and it's so unique. It has such character and it's really fast. So it's great fun. Circuit that I would like to drive on. God, this is one of those moments where I'm like, I really should be more knowledgeable in the world of motorsport. Like I'm like, I suppose Bathurst looks pretty cool. Yeah, there we go.
Is the correct answer.
That'll probably be the best that I can come up with because I'm really on the spot because I don't know a whole lot of motorsports.
I've always said Bathurst, Phillip Island, Laguna Seca, probably Watkins Glen. Before, if I just know what. But Bathurst.
It would be insane. Like, I would be in a touring car, but it would be such a cool experience to do it in some like big fancy like V8 supercar.
Oh, fantastic! I mean, at the Super Touring Power, I basically, as soon as I heard that Greg Murphy was going to be there, I was like, everyone out the way. I
just want to see what this is like. We
stood next to the Holden. I had a chat with Greg Murphy, and we spoke about Bathurst, and even him talking about it. He's won there 4 times.
Jeez,
And in
that's cool.
talking about it, he just couldn't stop grinning. He was like,
Yeah. That is quite cool to hear. To be fair, that is outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Okay, one tough, horrendous question that I ask everyone. Okay, it's really difficult it's impossible to answer. I'm going to list off a few drivers here. You've raced against a lot of good drivers, whether it be in the GT or the touring cars or whatever. You've got like Will Stevens, got Loris Hazeman, Gilles Magnus, Dries Van Tour, Van der Linders, Mia Fluet, Seb Prio, Johnny Adam, the various collards that have been knocking around. Josh Cook, Jack Goff, Jordan Jackson, Rob Austin, Jake Hill, Gordon Shedden, Camish Turkington, Sutton, Giovanardi, Menu, Prio, Plato. I mean, quite a few good drivers.
Only when you mentioned that, I was like, geez, I guess I have raced against all them.
You've raced against a lot of them. Is there anyone that stands out in your mind as being maybe not the best, but someone that you hold in a very high regard?
I would say the two Van der Linde brothers, Calvin and Sheldon, really good.
They are very good, aren't they?
Very good. And I've kind of like, from the bit of time that I've spent around them, they are phenomenal. And I think what's really cool is they're two brothers, and they're both at the top of their game. Obviously, one with BMW, one with Audi. And it's really cool to see them like paving a career in the sport together. Do you know what I mean? Like both doing DTM, both at one point weren't they lead? They were first and second at Spa 24. Like that's really cool. Like that's a very unique experience, and they must be the first brothers in the world to do something to that level, which is quite cool.
Which is amazing.
So I would say they're probably right up there with the best of the best, and I think like either one of them. I think did Calvin had a go? He was in Formula E at one point at the start of the year with Cupra, but it didn't really work out.
Yes.
And then I think Sheldon's doing the Jaguar Formula E test, I think.
Yes, it was just announced the last 2 or 3 days, wasn't it?
I remember being like, oh, he'll be. But where I'm going with that is I fully think if you put either of them into a Formula One car, they'll be as competitive as anyone on the grid.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt. So that's quite impressive. And I think, they are both just really nice guys, which is quite cool.
Yeah, they come across as being very nice.
Yeah, they're cool. And like, I don't know why I'm bigging it up so much. I feel like they have like an Instagram, like the VDL Bros or whatever it is. Their content and all is the coolest stuff in the world. Like, I feel like you watch that, you're like, they're really cool.
It's like them and Tom Coronel, the ones that just put out.
They do a great job, and it just everything looks very slick and sharp.
Yeah. Okay, we just seen two little comments here, but then we're going to wrap up. Colin Gregory says, ask Dublin Council to remove the roundabout at Mount Joy Corner in the Phoenix Park, and the BTCC could go there. Hey,
that's true. Like,
Dublin street race.
Can you imagine how cool that would be? Like if anyone has ever gone to spectate at the Phoenix Park, like there's still lampposts and all that. It's so cool. And like when I was younger, some of my earliest motorsport memories is going to the Phoenix Park to watch. But like it would even be cool to get the opportunity to do like a demo or just have something over here. Because it lacks it. Like there's such a good Irish motorsport community, and I feel like I wish I wasn't just the one that flew the nest. I wish I could do stuff over here.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if you saw like it's always so nice when Irish people come over to the racing, like to hear that twang. And we were at Oulton, and Car Store said to me, they were like, look, we have 2 places in hospitality that you can pick any people that you want to that come during the autograph signing and give it to them. So they'll have the full VIP experience. It's like unreal. So I sat there for like 10, 15 minutes, like chatting to people as they came through. And these 2 Irish lads came up. I've obviously never met them before, but they were the happiest 2 lads I've ever met in my life. I was like, it's these 2. These 2 have to come in. And like, they obviously went on to have the day of their lives. So it's silly things like that. When people come over from Ireland, it means so much to me. And I would love to do something over here. I just don't know how to make it happen.
Yeah, no, sure. All right. That's cool. All right, last question. This is a very silly question. Asking an Irishman this. Yeah. Oh, no, who knows? Is Aaron a fan of Guinness?
Do you know something, right? This is one that will shock everyone, right? I let down the entire Irish nation by not drinking. So it's like, it's a shock. Like,
not It's a stereotype.
Yeah, when I say that to people, they're like, "Are you? But you're Irish." Like, yeah, like I haven't drank in like maybe 7, 8 years. Like, I just feel like when you like, well, what I would say about myself is I have an extremely addictive personality. Not in terms of like being an alcoholic, but when I set my mind to something, I want to be the best at it. And because one day I was like, I want to be really fit, and I want to be like, and like, so then I was like, right, I won't drink for a while. And then all of a sudden it was like, it's been a few months, then it's been a few years, and now that's just who I am. So I'm like,
you're just not part of it, yeah.
but like I like people always are like, oh, but like do you judge people that do drink? I'm like, absolutely not. I get that it's such a social thing, but it's just not for me. And I think I only ever drank to like fit in, like as cliche as that sounds. And then once I realized, sure, no one likes me anyway. There's no point trying to fit in. Just live your own life. Do whatever you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great way to live
I would
life.
say every Irish person has to love Guinness because it is the nation's finest export.
And it is brilliant stuff.
So what you got? I feel like, yeah, if you're over in Dublin, which I have done, I've done the Guinness factory tour. I would strongly recommend that because it's really cool in itself. But yeah, apparently it's much nicer over here. Don't really know why, but it's such a nice.
I am a Guinness drinker by accident. Right. Cool. I did very quickly before we finish up. I basically started a new job about 15, 16 years ago, and we were in this sort of noisy pub thing. I just started, and my boss said, "Do you want a drink?" I was like, "Yeah." And I asked for a pint of John Smith's. I wanted a John Smith's pint of beer, and he thought I said Guinness, and he gave me this Guinness. I was like, "Oh, I can't say no. I got to drink this."
No, have to lean into
here we go.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. I went, "Oh, this is nice." So I've been drinking it ever since. But I did go to Dublin about 7 or 8 years ago, and yeah, it does taste.
I have heard that. I've heard
it does taste better.
It's something to do with like, I don't know, like they can use a different something they can do different over here. Don't really know why that is. But yeah, it is like the nation's treasure. That's what I would describe it as.
It's glorious, absolutely glorious. That, and there's a band called Flogging Molly, which I don't know if anyone knows about. They're like a punk rock type thing, and they're based out in Boston now. But they're called Flogging Molly, and they're just the greatest amount of fun. They're brilliant.
I'm pretty sure someone may have asked me about that only the other week, and I was like, I have never heard of this. I am so uncool. Like I feel like I am the ultimate Phil Dunphy from Modern Family, the like biggest square you'll ever come across in your life. Like I may put on a good show that I'm acceptably cool. I know nothing. I'm so uncultured, don't know anything. Like I know my dog, he's my best friend. That's about it.
No, good stuff. Oh, I've just seen one. Sharon Lynch has said, "My father was conceived in Phoenix Park." Crikey, I think we better leave that. I think that's a
story for you. Yeah, like probably won't go too much further into that. Also, only comment that I would say on that is right. Her comment was her father was conceived in the Phoenix Park. Weird fact to pass on to your daughter.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah, like I don't know how you got onto that conversation, but listen, loving it. Very interesting.
It's probably about time we wrap things up. But I mean, it's been over 2 hours. Again, these things have flown by. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great.
So much like, to be fair, I have a massive amount of respect for what you do on the show. It is so good, and it's nice just to actually talk to a normal person about it. So I appreciate you even asking me to come on. I feel very privileged to have been a part of it and to be a guest on it. So no, I'm sure we'll catch up again, hopefully with more race wins under my belt, and I'll see you. Yeah, I'll see you around. Like, I'm presuming you're coming to more races.
I'll be knocking around. Yeah, probably Silverstone and Brands are going to happen.
Well, swing by. Like, you're literally always welcome in the garage anytime you're ever out of track, and I appreciate you making the time to have me on, to be fair.
Well, that's lovely. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming on, and thank you for the kind words. I've been meaning to get you on for a while because I've been a bit of a fan of yours for a while.
Thank you. That's great. So now I have Archie, Lauren, my dad, and Rich. So I'm up to like 4. Like, that's really going well.
Using the second hand soon.
Yeah. Oakley, she's indifferent to me right now, so we'll see how that goes. If I could breastfeed, I think she'd be a fan of mine.
I think you'd be making more money globally if you could.
Yeah, it's true. Oh God.
Not the hat on the floor. Right. Also, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all the questions. We've tried to cover them as best we can, as always. And we're going to be announcing another one tomorrow. But no, thanks everyone for tuning in. And thanks once again to Aaron. I'm wishing you all the very best of luck for the rest of the season.
No, thank you very much. And again, thank you so much for having me. I will do my best to put on a show for you for the rest of the year.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon.